How does it feel, Michael? Standing in a hotel room with another woman, only to find your wife waiting for you in the dark. The question hung in the air between us like poison. 3 people. 1 hotel room. And the truth we'd all been avoiding for months, finally exposed under the harsh fluorescent lights I'd just switched on. You know what they say about karma, it doesn't miss an address. It doesn't forget a name. And it certainly doesn't care how much you think you've gotten away with. I used to think karma was something passive, something that just happened eventually, maybe, if the universe felt like it. But that night, standing in that hotel room with an envelope in my hand and my husband's guilt written all over his face, I learned something different. Sometimes karma needs a little help. Sometimes you have to become the consequence you're waiting for. Hey, how are you doing today? I hope you're somewhere comfortable because this story, my story, it's going to take you on a ride. Whether you're watching from your living room, your bedroom, stuck in traffic, or taking a break at work, I need you to stay with me. The weather might be cold where you are, or maybe it's warm and sunny, but either way, I promise you this. What happened to me that night will make you forget about everything else for a while. My name is Ada Okonkwo, and this is the story of how I went from being a woman who cried herself to sleep every night, wondering why her husband didn't love her anymore, to the woman who orchestrated the most devastating confrontation of her life. And one. Picture this, a 32-year-old woman standing in a luxury hotel room, dressed in the same red dress her husband used to say made her look like a queen, holding an envelope that contains documents capable of destroying a man's entire future. That was me. Not crying. Not begging. Not the broken wife I'd been for the past 6 months. But the woman who finally decided she was done being a victim. But let me ask you something before we go any further. Have you ever loved someone so much that you ignored every single red flag? Every late-night phone call they took in another room? Every sudden business trip that didn't quite add up? Every time they pulled away when you tried to touch them, like your hands burned their skin? If you have, then you'll understand my story. And if you're enjoying this already, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. But let me start from the beginning, because that hotel room confrontation didn't just happen. It was the culmination of months of pain, suspicion, and a betrayal so deep I sometimes still can't believe it was real. I was 24 when I met Michael Okonkwo. Young, yes. Naive? Absolutely. But full of hope and dreams about what marriage could be. I believed in the fairy tale. I believed that when you found the right person, love conquered everything. I believed that if you were loyal, faithful, and gave everything you had to your marriage, your spouse would do the same. I believed in forever. Michael was 27 then, working his way up in a telecommunications company, ambitious and charming in a way that made everyone around him feel important. When he looked at me, I felt seen. When he spoke to me, I felt heard. When he touched me, I felt cherished. We got married within a year of meeting. Everyone said we were rushing. My mother pulled me aside 2 weeks before the wedding and asked if I was sure. My best friend Kayamika said something felt off about how quickly everything was moving. But I was in love. I was certain. I ignored every single person who suggested I slow down. Ada, Michael had said to me the night he proposed, "You're the only woman I'll ever need. I promise you that. You're going to be my wife, the mother of my children, and my partner in everything. I'm going to build an empire, and you're going to be right there beside me." I believed him. For the first 3 years of our marriage, I had no reason not to. We struggled financially like most young couples do, but we struggled together. When his car broke down, I took extra shifts at the clinic where I worked as a nurse to help pay for repairs. When my father got sick, Michael drove me 4 hours to the village every weekend for 2 months so I could be there. We were a team. We were partners. We were everything I dreamed marriage could be. Then Michael got promoted. Senior manager at 30 years old. Suddenly, the man who used to come home exhausted but happy, who used to wrap his arms around me while I cooked dinner and tell me about his day, who used to make love to me like I was precious, that man started to disappear. At first, the changes were small. Subtle. The kind of things you tell yourself are just stress from the new job. He started coming home later. "Big project at work, baby." I'm sorry. He started taking phone calls in the car, in the bathroom, anywhere but in the same room as me. Just work stuff. You wouldn't be interested. He started looking at me differently. Or rather, he started not looking at me at all. Like I'd become invisible in my own home. But I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that this was just what happened when people got busy with their careers. I told myself that if I was just patient, just understanding, just supportive enough, we'd get back to how things were. I was making excuses for a man who was already gone. The real change happened about 8 months ago. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Our 5th wedding anniversary. Michael came home with roses and a reservation at the Transcorp Hilton, the same hotel where we'd spent our first anniversary. I was so happy. So relieved. See? I told myself. He still cares. He still remembers. We're going to be okay. That night was beautiful. He was attentive, romantic, present in a way he hadn't been in months. We made love like we used to, with passion and tenderness. He whispered promises in my ear about getting back to us, about making more time, about remembering what was important. I fell asleep that night feeling like I had my husband back. I had no idea that same hotel would become the scene of my greatest humiliation and eventually my greatest triumph. The real unraveling started in March. Michael announced he'd be traveling more for work. Regional conferences, training sessions, client meetings in other cities. One trip became two. Two became weekly. Weekly became the norm. And each time he left, something inside me twisted with suspicion I couldn't quite name. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. His phone, which used to sit on the kitchen counter while he showered, now went everywhere with him. The bathroom. The bedroom. Even when he was just stepping outside to throw out the trash. His clothes started smelling different. Not like another woman's perfume. Michael was too smart for that. But expensive. Like high-end hotels and boutique restaurants we couldn't afford on his salary. His body language changed. He flinched when I touched him unexpectedly. He made excuses to avoid intimacy. He stopped initiating conversations about our future, about the children we'd planned to have, about the house we were saving to build. But what really broke me was the way he looked at his phone. Like it contained something more interesting, more exciting, more worthy of his attention than anything happening in our home. Then me. I started having dreams. Nightmares, really. Of Michael with another woman. Someone younger, more exciting, less familiar. Someone who didn't remind him of bills and responsibilities and the ordinary reality of married life. I'd wake up in cold sweats, turn to look at him sleeping beside me, and wonder if the man I'd married still existed or if he'd been replaced by this stranger who wore his face. Kayamika noticed I was losing weight. "Ada, what's happening to you? You look exhausted." I couldn't tell her. Saying it out loud would make it real. So I smiled and blamed it on extra shifts at the clinic. But my mother knew. Mothers always know. "That man is walking around like he owns the world," she said to me one Sunday after church. "And you're walking around like you're apologizing for existing. What is going on in that marriage?" "Nothing, Mama. We're fine." The lie tasted bitter. It was a Tuesday in late April when I found the first real evidence. Michael's laptop was open on the dining table. He'd left in a rush for an early meeting and forgotten it. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't. I was just going to close it and put it away. But then I saw the browser was still open. Hotel booking sites. Flight comparisons. Restaurant reservations. My hands were shaking as I clicked through the history. Transcorp Hilton. Presidential suite. Booked for last weekend, when Michael had told me he was in Port Harcourt for a conference. My heart stopped. I checked the booking confirmation email. 1 king bed. Champagne package. Couples massage add-on. The room started spinning. I scrolled further back. March. February. January. Monthly bookings. Always the same hotel. Always the same suite. Always when he told me he was traveling for work. And then I saw it. A WhatsApp web notification popped up on the screen. "Can't wait for this weekend, baby. Same room as last time." The message was from a contact saved as T. Johnson office. I clicked on it before I could stop myself. The chat history that opened destroyed me. Months of messages. I miss you already. Last night was incredible. You make me feel alive again. She doesn't understand me like you do. He was talking about me. To another woman. Complaining about me. About our marriage. About how I was boring and predictable and couldn't understand the man he'd become. I read every message. Every flirtation. Every plan they'd made. Every lie he'd told me that I'd believed. Her name was Tonia. 24 years old, the same age I'd been when Michael and I got married. She worked in his office as a marketing associate. She was everything I apparently wasn't anymore, young, exciting, carefree, full of admiration for his success. The messages went back 6 months. 6 months of an affair I'd felt in my bones but couldn't prove. 6 months of him coming home to me after being with her. 6 months of lies. I should have confronted him immediately. I should have packed his bags and thrown him out. I should have called my brothers and let them handle it the way we handled betrayal in my family. But I didn't. Because buried in those messages was something that hurt even more than the affair itself. When are you going to leave her? Tonia had asked 2 weeks ago. Soon, Michael had replied. I'm just waiting for the right time. Ada's a good woman. She doesn't deserve to be humiliated. I'll make it clean. Clean. Like our 5-year marriage was just a mess to be tidied up. Like I was an inconvenience to be managed. Like the vows we'd taken, the life we'd built, the future we'd planned, all of it could be disposed of cleanly when he was ready. I closed the laptop with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. For 3 days, I said nothing. I watched my husband come home, kiss my forehead with the same lips that kissed her, and act like everything was normal. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, slept in the same bed with him, and pretended I didn't know. But inside, I was dying. Kayamika found me crying in the hospital staff bathroom on Thursday. Ada, talk to me. What's going on? And finally, I broke. I told her everything. The messages, the hotel bookings, the affair, the plans to leave me. She held me while I sobbed. What are you going to do? I don't know. But that was a lie. Deep down, I already knew. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. That Friday, Michael announced another business trip. I'll be gone all weekend, baby. Conference in Lagos. Big client presentation on Monday. I smiled. Okay, be safe. He kissed my forehead and left. I waited exactly 10 minutes. Then I grabbed my own laptop and logged into the hotel booking site using his saved password. Presidential Suite. Transcorp Hilton. This weekend. Checked in under Michael Okonkwo plus 1 guest. The same hotel where we'd celebrated our anniversary. The same hotel where he'd looked into my eyes 8 months ago and promised to make more time for us. The same hotel where he'd made me believe we were going to be okay. He was taking her there. To our place. To the location of our memories. Replacing me in every way that mattered. Something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Like a wire pulled too tight, finally giving way. I wasn't going to confront him at home. I wasn't going to cry and beg and ask him why I wasn't enough. I wasn't going to give him the chance to make excuses or turn this around on me or make me feel like I was overreacting. I was going to let him walk into that hotel room with his sidechick. I was going to let him think he'd gotten away with it. I was going to let him feel safe and secure in his betrayal. And then I was going to destroy him. I opened my laptop and made a call to the hotel. Hello, yes. I'd like to book the executive suite for this weekend. The one right next door to the presidential suite. The pieces were falling into place. But I wasn't going there just to catch them. I wasn't going there just to scream or cry or make a scene. I was going there with an envelope. An envelope containing documents that would shatter not just Michael's weekend plans, but his entire future. Documents I'd been gathering for the past 3 days. Documents he didn't even know existed. Because while Michael was planning his romantic weekend with Tonia, I was planning something else entirely. Revenge? Maybe. Justice? Definitely. The end of everything we'd built? Absolutely. But most importantly, I was planning my freedom. By Saturday evening, I was checked into that executive suite, wearing the red dress Michael used to love, with my envelope of evidence sitting on the desk beside me. The walls between the presidential suite and mine were thin enough that I could hear when they arrived. The giggling. The kissing. The sound of champagne being opened. His voice, saying things to her he used to say to me. Her voice, young and carefree and completely unaware that she was helping a man betray his wife. I waited. Listened. Let them settle in. Let them think they were alone and safe. Let them start to relax. Then I walked out of my room, used the spare key card I'd sweet-talked the hotel staff into giving me. My husband booked the presidential suite for our anniversary, but gave me the wrong room number. Please, can you help me surprise him? And let myself into the room next door. The lights were dim. Romantic music was playing. I could see them on the couch, wrapped around each other, his hands in places that used to be reserved for me. I flipped on the overhead lights. And that's when I asked the question that started this whole story. How does it feel, Michael? Standing in a hotel room with another woman, only to find your wife waiting for you in the dark. If you're hooked by Ada's story and want to know what happens next, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me what you would do in Ada's situation. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's in that envelope. The real story is just getting started. The silence that followed my question was deafening. Michael's face went through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, shock, disbelief, then finally, terrible understanding. His hands, which had been tangled in Tonia's hair just seconds before, dropped to his sides like dead weights. Tonia scrambled off his lap, pulling her dress down, her young face flushed with embarrassment and fear. She couldn't have been more than 24, 25 at most. Pretty in that fresh, unworried way of someone who hasn't yet learned that life breaks you in ways you can't always see coming. She looked between Michael and me, her eyes wide. Michael? What? Who is this? I almost laughed. Almost. Because the fact that he hadn't even told her he was married, hadn't shown her a single picture, hadn't mentioned my existence, hurt in a way I didn't expect. I'm Ada, I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Michael's wife. The color drained from Tonia's face. Wife? But you told me you were divorced. That it was finalized last year. Now I did laugh. A short, bitter sound that didn't feel like it came from me at all. Michael had finally found his voice. Ada. Baby. This isn't what it looks like. Really? I held up my phone, showing the screenshots I'd taken of their WhatsApp messages. Because it looks exactly like what 6 months of chat history says it is. It looks exactly like hotel booking confirmations say it is. It looks exactly like you planning to leave your wife for a woman young enough to be your little sister. He took a step toward me, hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. Let me explain. Explain what, Michael? Explain how you've been sleeping with your colleague for half a year while coming home to me every night? Explain how you brought her to the same hotel where we celebrated our anniversary? Explain how you were planning to make it clean. I spit out the last word like poison. Tonia was crying now, grabbing her purse, looking for an escape. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was married. He said. He showed me pictures of a condo he said was his bachelor place. He never mentioned a wife. Of course he didn't, I said, not looking at her. My eyes were locked on Michael. Because admitting he had a wife at home would have made him less exciting. Less available. Less like the successful single man he was pretending to be. Ada, please. Michael's voice cracked. Can we talk about this alone? Without your sidechick present? I finished for him. Sure. Tonia, you can go. She didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her shoes and practically ran for the door, mumbling apologies that I didn't acknowledge. The door slammed behind her, and then it was just the two of us. My husband and me. The two people who had stood before God and family and promised forever. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized. He did it when he was stressed, when he was trying to figure out how to fix something. I'd seen him do it 1,000 times during our marriage, when money was tight, when his car broke down, when his mother was sick. But this wasn't something he could fix. Not this time. How long have you known? He asked finally. Does it matter? Ada, please. I need to understand what's happening right now. I walked further into the room, setting my envelope down on the bed. The same bed where he'd planned to sleep with another woman. In the same hotel where he'd once made love to me and promised to cherish me forever. I found your messages 3 days ago, I said. The hotel bookings. The flights. All of it. He closed his eyes. And you didn't say anything. What was I supposed to say, Michael? What words exist for finding out your husband has been living a double life? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? My voice rose despite my attempt to stay calm. Tell me. Explain to me how 6 months of lying to my face wasn't a double life. Explain how you kissed me goodbye every morning knowing you were planning to leave me. Explain how you made love to me in this exact hotel 8 months ago and promised to work on our marriage, then brought another woman here to the same room. That was different, he said weakly. How? How was it different? He couldn't answer. Because there was no answer that would make this better. I sat down on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was wearing off, leaving behind raw pain. When did I stop being enough? I asked quietly. When did you look at me and decide that the woman you married wasn't what you wanted anymore? Michael sat down too, but not close to me. There was a careful distance between us now, a gap that felt wider than the entire room. You didn't stop being enough, he said. You were never the problem, Ada. I was. That's not an answer. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Honest in a way he hadn't been with me in months. Do you remember when I got promoted? Of course. Everything changed after that. The people I worked with, the clients I met, the places I went for meetings, it was a different world. A world where people had money and power and options. And I looked around at all these successful men with their young girlfriends and their expensive cars and their freedom, and I started to feel like I'd missed out on something. My stomach turned. You felt like you'd missed out? We built our life together, Michael. Every step of the way. When you had nothing, I was there. When you were studying for your exams, I was there. When you got rejected for promotions, I was there. I know. But now that you have success, suddenly I'm the thing you missed out on? The wife who was too boring? Too familiar? Too much of a reminder of where you came from? He flinched. You're twisting my words. Am I? Because that's exactly what your messages to Tonia said. That I didn't understand you anymore. That I couldn't relate to the man you'd become. That you needed someone who could match your new lifestyle. Ada, I matched every part of your life, Michael. Every single part. The struggling part. The building part. The dreaming part. But now that we're supposed to be enjoying the success we worked for together, you want someone who just showed up for the good part. Someone who doesn't know what it cost us to get here. The tears I'd been holding back finally came. I let them fall without wiping them away. Michael reached for me, but I pulled back. Don't. Don't touch me with the same hands that were just on her. He dropped his hands. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. No more lies. He took a breath. I met Tonia 9 months ago when she started at the company. She was smart, ambitious, full of energy. She laughed at my jokes. She looked at me like I was impressive. And I liked it. I liked feeling like that, young and exciting, and like I had my whole life ahead of me instead of feeling settled and predictable. Each word was a knife. But I needed to hear it. All of it. When did it become physical? 6 months ago. After a company event. We'd both had too much to drink in. I don't need the details, I cut him off. Just the timeline. 6 months, he confirmed. But Ada, it wasn't about you. It was never about you not being enough. Then what was it about? Fear, he said simply. Fear that I'd become my father. Stuck in the same marriage for 40 years, always wondering what else was out there. Fear that I'd wake up at 50 and realize I'd never really lived. Fear that being married at 27 meant I'd never know what it was like to just be free. I stared at him. So you decided to find out while you were still married to me. I didn't plan it. It just happened. No. I stood up, anger replacing the sadness. Affairs don't just happen. You made a choice. Every time you texted her, every time you booked this hotel room, every time you lied to my face about business trips, those were choices. Don't insult me by pretending you're a victim of circumstance. He stood too. You're right. You're absolutely right. I made terrible choices. I hurt you in ways I can never take back. But Ada, I never stopped loving you. Don't. My voice was ice. Don't you dare tell me you love me. Love doesn't do this. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't replace you with a younger version while pretending everything is fine. What do you want from me? His voice rose in frustration. You want me to beg? Fine. I'm begging. Please, Ada. Please give me a chance to fix this. I'll end it with Tonia. I'll do whatever it takes. Please don't throw away 5 years of marriage over a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. This is a choice. This is a pattern. This is 6 months of deliberate deception. I'll change. I promise I'll change. I picked up my envelope from the bed. You want to know what's in here? He looked at it warily. What is it? Divorce papers. I had a lawyer draw them up yesterday. Very generous terms, actually. I'm not asking for much. Just my freedom and my dignity. His face went pale. Ada, no. Please. We can work this out. Every marriage goes through rough patches. We can get counseling. We can. Counseling works when both people want to save the marriage. You've spent 6 months planning to leave it. I never actually decided to leave. I was confused. I was going through something. But I never actually made the decision. The decision to leave? I laughed bitterly. Michael, you left months ago. You just forgot to tell me. Your body has been coming home, but you checked out of this marriage a long time ago. He was crying now too. I'd never seen my husband cry before. Not when his mother died. Not when he lost his first big client. But he was crying now. I can't lose you, he said. Ada, you're my wife. You're my family. You're everything I built my life around. No, I'm not. I'm the safety net you kept in place while you explored other options. I'm the backup plan. The good woman you could return to if your exciting new life didn't work out. That's not true, isn't it? You told Tonia you were waiting for the right time to leave me cleanly. That sounds exactly like someone keeping their options open until they were sure. He had no response to that because we both knew it was true. I walked to the door, envelope in hand. The papers are in here. I'll have them delivered to the house on Monday. You have 2 weeks to sign them or I file them anyway and this gets messy. Your choice. Ada, wait. Please. Don't leave like this. Don't end everything over one mistake. I turned back to him. One mistake would have been that first kiss with Tonia that you immediately regretted and confessed to me. One mistake would have been an emotional attachment you recognized and shut down before it went further. 6 months of hotel rooms and lies and planning a future with someone else while still sleeping in my bed? That's not a mistake, Michael. That's a choice. That's a pattern. That's who you decided to be. I'm sorry. God, Ada, I'm so sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry that your comfortable life is falling apart. Sorry that you have to face consequences. But are you sorry for what you did? Are you sorry for hurting me? Or are you just sorry that you can't have both, the excitement of a new relationship and the security of a wife at home? He couldn't answer. And his silence told me everything. I opened the door. Goodbye, Michael. Sign the papers. Make it clean, just like you wanted. Ada. I closed the door on whatever he was about to say. The walk back to my room felt like walking through water. Everything was heavy. My legs, my chest, my heart. I'd done it. I'd confronted him. I'd stood my ground. I'd been strong. So why did I feel like I was dying inside? I made it back to my room and locked the door behind me before I collapsed. The tears came in waves, violent and uncontrollable. I sobbed into the hotel pillows until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. 5 years of marriage. Gone. The future we'd planned. Gone. The children we were going to have. Gone. The house we were saving for. Gone. The man I thought I knew. Gone. Everything I'd built my adult life around had just crumbled to dust. My phone rang. Kayamika. How did it go? She asked when I answered. I couldn't speak. I just cried. I'm coming to get you, she said. What hotel are you at? Transcorp Hilton. Executive Suite. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Pack your things. You're not spending the night there. She was there in 15 minutes. Kayamika had always been like that, fierce and protective and ready to fight whoever needed fighting. She took one look at me and pulled me into her arms. Oh, Ada. I did it. I managed between sobs. I confronted him. I gave him the divorce papers. Good. That bastard deserves worse than divorce papers, but it's a start. She helped me pack my overnight bag and led me out of the hotel. We passed the presidential suite on the way out. The door was closed. I wondered if Michael was still in there alone now, realizing what he'd just lost. Or maybe he was already calling Tonya, explaining, apologizing, making plans to fix things with her instead of me. The thought made me physically ill. Kayamika drove me to her apartment and set me up in her guest room. She made tea I didn't drink and food I couldn't eat. She sat with me while I cried until there were no tears left. "What happens now?" I asked finally, my voice hoarse. "Now you heal. Now you rebuild. Now you remember that his betrayal says nothing about your worth and everything about his character." I gave him everything, everything. And it wasn't enough. No, Ada. You gave him everything and he was too stupid and selfish to appreciate it. That's not the same thing. I feel like I'm dying. I know. But you're not dying. You're just discovering that the life you thought you had was an illusion. And that hurts worse than almost anything. But you will survive this. You will. I wanted to believe her. But right then, lying in her guest bed with my marriage in ruins and my heart shattered, survival felt impossible. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Please come home. We need to talk about this properly. You're my wife. You'll always be my wife. I love you." I showed Kayamika. She grabbed my phone. "Do you want me to respond?" "No. Just turn it off." She powered it down and set it on the nightstand. "Sleep. We'll deal with everything else tomorrow." But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Michael and Tonya. Laughing. Kissing. Planning a future that didn't include me. Living in my hotel, in my marriage, in the space that was supposed to be mine. And underneath the hurt was something else. Something that scared me. Rage. Not the hot, explosive kind. But cold. Calculating. The kind of rage that plans. Because giving Michael divorce papers wasn't enough. Letting him walk away cleanly wasn't justice. He'd had 6 months of having everything, a wife at home, and a girlfriend on the side. 6 months of having his cake and eating it too. I deserved more than just ending it. I deserved vindication. And slowly, as I lay there in the dark of Kayamika's guest room, a plan started to form. Michael wanted clean? He wanted to avoid embarrassment and move on with his life? I was going to make sure that wasn't an option. But I had to be smart. Strategic. I couldn't just lash out emotionally. I had to hit him where it would actually hurt. His reputation. His career. His future with Tonya. And I knew exactly how to do it. But first, I needed information. Evidence. Ammunition. I reached for my phone, powered it back on, and started making notes. Michael had no idea what was coming. He thought the hotel confrontation was the end. It was just the beginning. Ada's not done yet. Not even close. If you want to see how she takes down a man who thought he could have everything, stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me, has anyone ever betrayed you like this? And what did you do about it? Act 3 is going to shock you. Sunday morning hit me like a physical force. I woke up in Kayamika's guest room with swollen eyes and a headache that felt like my skull was splitting open. For exactly 3 seconds, I forgot what had happened. Then reality crashed back in, and I wanted to crawl back into unconsciousness. My phone had 47 missed calls. 33 from Michael. 8 from my mother. 6 from numbers I didn't recognize. And 1 voicemail from Michael's mother. I sat up, my heart pounding. Mrs. Okonkwo and I had a complicated relationship. She'd never thought I was quite good enough for her successful son, but she'd been civil. Polite. We maintained the peace. I pressed play on the voicemail. Ada, my dear. Michael called me this morning very distressed. He says you've left him over a misunderstanding and that you're talking about divorce. Please, I'm begging you, don't make hasty decisions. Marriage is work. All men make mistakes. Come home. Let's discuss this as a family. Whatever he did, we can fix it. I deleted the message. A misunderstanding. That's what he'd told her. That's how he was framing 6 months of systematic betrayal. A simple misunderstanding. Kayamika knocked on the door with coffee and bread. You're awake. How are you feeling? Like I want to set the world on fire. She sat down on the edge of the bed. That's better than yesterday's breakdown. Anger is progress. His mother called. He told her it was a misunderstanding. Kayamika's jaw clenched. Of course he did. Men like Michael always rewrite history to make themselves the victim. Did you listen to any of his calls? No. Good. Don't. He's going to try every manipulation tactic he knows. Guilt, love, promises, threats. Don't give him the opportunity. I sipped the coffee. It was strong and bitter, exactly what I needed. I've been thinking. Oh, I know that tone. What are you planning? Divorce papers aren't enough. Ada, listen to me. She had 6 months of living a double life. 6 months of coming home to me after being with her. 6 months of lying without consequences. And now what? I file for divorce. He marries Tonia. They live happily ever after while I'm the pathetic wife who couldn't keep her husband. You're not pathetic. He's trash. I know that. You know that. But does everyone else? Does his family? His colleagues? The people at church who will whisper about how I must have done something wrong to drive him away. Kayamika was quiet for a moment. What exactly are you thinking? I'm thinking that Michael's entire life is built on image. The successful young executive. The respectable married man. The future leader in the company. What happens when that image gets destroyed? Ada, be careful. Revenge has a way of hurting the person seeking it. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. He should face real consequences for what he did. And how do you plan to make that happen? I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd taken of his messages with Tonia. These messages prove a 6-month affair with a subordinate employee. That's a violation of company policy. Grounds for termination or demotion at minimum. Kayamika's eyes widened. You want to send those to his company? I want him to face professional consequences for mixing his personal mess with his workplace. He brought this into his office when he started sleeping with an employee. That's on him. And what about Tonia? She'll lose her job too. She lied to get with a man she thought was single. She participated in workplace misconduct. She gets consequences too. I felt a twinge of guilt saying it, but I pushed it down. Tonia wasn't entirely innocent here. This will destroy his career, Ada. Good. He was willing to destroy our marriage. Fair trade. Kayamika studied me carefully. You're different this morning. Yesterday, you were heartbroken. Today you're cold. Yesterday I was in shock. Today I'm clear-headed. Michael calculated every move he made for 6 months. He planned, executed, and lied with precision. Why shouldn't I do the same? Because you're not him. Don't become the thing you hate. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Was I becoming like Michael? Calculating and cold? No. There was a difference. Michael had destroyed our marriage for selfish pleasure. I was simply making sure he couldn't walk away without consequences. My phone rang. Michael again. This time I answered. Ada. Thank God. Baby, please, where are you? Come home. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Michael. I gave you the divorce papers. That's all the conversation we need. You can't be serious about this. One mistake and you're throwing away 5 years. Stop calling it one mistake. I saw the messages. 6 months, Michael. That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle choice. His voice shifted, became harder. Fine. You want to be difficult? I spoke to my lawyer this morning. Those divorce papers you gave me? They're a joke. You're asking for almost nothing. Why? My stomach tightened. I deliberately kept the divorce term simple because I'd wanted a quick, clean break. I hadn't asked for alimony, hadn't fought over assets. I just wanted out. But now I realized my mistake. Michael saw generosity as weakness. I wanted to make it easy, I said carefully. Easy? Or did you realize you don't actually have grounds for anything more? Ada, we're married in community of property. Everything we own is half yours, half mine. If you want to divorce me over this, fine. But you'll get exactly what the law says you get. Nothing more. I don't want your money, Michael. Then what do you want? To punish me? To make me suffer? Because I'm telling you right now, if you try to embarrass me or my family with this, you'll regret it. There it was. The real Michael. Not the crying, apologetic man from last night. But the one who was already calculating how to protect himself. Is that a threat? It's reality. You expose our private business, and you'll look just as bad as me. The bitter wife who couldn't forgive. Churches don't look kindly on women who won't submit and forgive their husbands, Ada. You'll be unmarriageable. Damaged goods. Each word was designed to hurt. To make me feel small and powerless. A week ago, it would have worked. But something had shifted in me. The woman who cared what church people thought, who worried about being judged, who wanted to keep the peace at all costs, she died in that hotel room last night. Sign the papers, Michael. Or don't. Either way, I'm done with this marriage. I hung up before he could respond. Kayamika was staring at me. What did he say? I told her everything. She was furious. He threatened you? After what he did, he has the audacity to threaten you. He's protecting himself. That's what he does. Protect his image, protect his interests, protect his future. So what now? I stood up, suddenly energized despite my exhaustion. Now I stop playing defense and start playing offense. I need to go home and get some things. I'll come with you. No. I need to do this alone. But I need you to do something else for me. What? Find out everything you can about company policies on workplace relationships at Michael's job. Employee handbooks, HR contacts, reporting procedures. Everything. Kayamika grinned. Now you're thinking strategically. I'll make some calls. An hour later, I was standing outside the house I'd shared with Michael for 3 years. The small duplex in Gorimpa that we'd been so proud to rent when we moved in. The place where we'd planned to start our family. Where we'd hosted friends for weekend barbecues. Where we'd made love on every surface and talked about our dreams late into the night. Now it just looked like a building. Empty of meaning. Michael's car was in the driveway. I'd hoped he'd be out, but I should have known better. He was probably waiting for me, ready to ambush me with more manipulation. I unlocked the front door and walked in. He was sitting on the couch, looking haggard. His eyes were red, his clothes wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept. Good. Ada. You came home. He stood up, hope flooding his face. I came to get my things. This isn't my home anymore. The hope died. Don't say that. This is our home. Everything we built together is here. I walked past him toward our bedroom. He followed. Ada, please. Just talk to me. Really talk to me. Not through lawyers or threats. Just you and me. I started pulling clothes from the closet, stuffing them into a suitcase. What do you want me to say, Michael? I want you to tell me what I can do to fix this. I'll do anything. I'll end things with Tonia completely. I'll change jobs if you want. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. Why? The question seemed to confuse him. What do you mean why? Because I love you. Because you're my wife. No. I turned to face him. Why no? Why are you willing to do all these things now that you're caught, but you weren't willing to protect our marriage before? Why is it only important now that you're facing consequences? He ran his hands through his hair. That gesture again. Because I was stupid. Because I took you for granted. Because I thought I could have everything and not lose anything. I was wrong, Ada. I know I was wrong. You're right. You were wrong. And now you get to live with that. So that's it? You're just done? 5 years of marriage means nothing. I zipped up the suitcase. 5 years of marriage meant everything to me, Michael. Everything. But it clearly didn't mean the same to you. You traded it for hotel rooms and a woman who made you feel young. You don't get to pretend it was precious to you now that it's gone. I moved to the bathroom, gathering toiletries. In the mirror, I caught sight of Michael leaning against the doorframe, watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. Fear. He was afraid. Not of losing me specifically, but of losing everything that came with me. The respectable marriage. The stable home life. The image of the successful family man. My mother wants to talk to you, he said quietly. I got her message. I'm not interested. Ada, she's willing to help us work through this. Family counseling, church intervention, whatever we need. Your mother thinks this is a misunderstanding. Is that what you told her? That I'm overreacting to some small issue? He had the grace to look ashamed. I told her we had a disagreement. I didn't give her details. Of course you didn't. Because the details make you look bad. The details reveal that you're not the good son she thinks you are. What do you want me to do? Tell my mother I cheated on my wife? Humiliate myself in front of my family? I want you to take responsibility for your choices. But you won't, will you? You'll let me be the bad guy. The wife who wouldn't forgive. The woman who destroyed the marriage over pride. I'm not doing that. You already are. I pushed past him back into the bedroom. You called your mother crying about me leaving over a misunderstanding. You called your lawyer to protect your assets. You're already rewriting history to make yourself the victim. I'm trying to save our marriage. No, you're trying to save yourself. My voice rose despite my intention to stay calm. If you wanted to save our marriage, you would have thought about that before you slept with Tonia. Before you took her to our hotel. Before you spent 6 months lying to my face. You don't get to play the devoted husband now. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Calculating. What will it take, Ada? Money? I can increase what I'm offering in the settlement. You want the car? The furniture? Name it. I don't want your things. Then what? You want me to grovel? Fine. I'm groveling. You want me to beg? I'm begging. What do you want from me? I stopped packing and looked at him directly. I want you to feel a fraction of what I felt when I found those messages. I want you to know what it's like to have your entire world revealed as a lie. I want you to experience real consequences for treating me like I was disposable. His jaw tightened. That sounds like revenge. Call it whatever you want. I'm warning you, Ada. Don't try to destroy me. You'll regret it. Is that another threat? It's advice. We can end this quietly, split things fairly, and both move on with our lives. Or you can try to burn everything down and we'll both end up covered in ash. Your choice. I laughed. Actually laughed. You really think you're in a position to threaten me? Michael, you had an affair with a subordinate at your workplace. That's a terminable offense at most companies. You used company resources, hotels, dinners, trips for personal relationships. That's fraud. You lied to your wife, your family, and probably your employers. And you think you can threaten me? His face went pale. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Report workplace misconduct? Why not? Because it would destroy both of us. My career tanks. How do you think that affects you? We're married. My income is your income. You'd be cutting off your own support. I have my own job, Michael. I've been a nurse for 8 years. I don't need your money to survive. But you? You need that job. You need that title. You need the respect and the image. So who really has more to lose here? The power dynamic had shifted and we both felt it. Michael was no longer the one in control, setting the terms, deciding my future. I was. And he hated it. You've changed, he said, almost wonderingly. The Ada I married wouldn't do this. The Ada you married trusted you, believed in you, would have done anything for you. You killed her the first time you lied to sleep with another woman. This is who you created. I grabbed my suitcase and walked toward the door. Where are you going? None of your business. Ada, we need to finish talking about this. No, we don't. My lawyer will contact yours about the divorce proceedings. Any communication goes through them. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up where I am. We're done, Michael. I won't sign those papers. I turned back to him. Then I'll file them without your signature and let a judge decide. Either way, this marriage is over. You can make it easy or you can make it hard, but the result is the same. I walked out of the house, loaded my suitcase into my car, and drove away without looking back. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over because my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't steer. The confrontation had taken everything out of me. The strength, the confidence, the cold control, it had all been a performance. And now that I was alone, the mask cracked. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel and tried to breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Tonia. Please, I need to talk to you. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married. Please give me a chance to explain. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it. What could this girl possibly say that would matter? But another part, the part that needed to understand how Michael had fooled both of us, needed to hear her side. I typed back, where? She responded immediately with the address of a coffee shop in West-2. Against my better judgment, I drove there. Tonia was already sitting at a corner table when I arrived. She looked worse than I felt, eyes swollen from crying, hair pulled back messily, wearing sweats like she'd just rolled out of bed. She stood up when she saw me. "Mrs. Okonkwo, thank you for coming. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't. Sit down." We sat across from each other, two women connected by this same lying man. "I'm sorry," Tonia started, tears already forming. "I'm so sorry. If I had known he was married, I never would have." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just tell me the truth. How did this start?" She took a shaky breath. "He pursued me. From almost my first week at the company. He was charming, attentive, always finding reasons to talk to me. He told me he was divorced, that it had been finalized about a year ago. He said he had a place in Maitama, showed me pictures. He never wore a ring. Never mentioned a wife. Never acted like anything but a single man. And you believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was a senior manager. Successful. Respected. I had no reason to think he was lying." She wiped her eyes. "He took me to nice places, introduced me to his friends, though now I realize they were all single friends, never anyone who would know about you. He talked about a future together. Moving in together. Maybe getting married eventually." My stomach turned. "He talked about marrying you?" "Yes. He said he wanted to take things slow because his divorce had been hard, but that he saw a real future with me." She laughed bitterly. "I was so stupid. So naive. I thought I'd found this amazing man who really cared about me. When did you find out the truth?" "Last night. When you walked into that room." "I had no idea, Mrs. Okonkwo. I swear on everything. The second I found out, I left. I've been calling and texting him to tell him we're done, but he won't stop contacting me, trying to explain." I studied her face, looking for deception. But all I saw was genuine devastation. She'd been lied to just like I had. Different lies, same liar. "What did he tell you about me?" I asked. "Nothing. He never mentioned you at all." Looking back now, I realize how strange that was, that he never talked about his ex-wife, never explained what went wrong in his marriage. But at the time, I just thought he was being private. "Did anyone at work know about you too?" She shifted uncomfortably. "We kept it quiet. He said it was because he was my superior and didn't want people to think he was showing favoritism. But a few people probably suspected. We were careful, but not that careful." This was useful information. Very useful. "Tonia, do you have any messages or emails from Michael? Proof of the relationship?" She looked confused. "Yes, of course." "Why?" "Because Michael is trying to make me look like the villain in all this. The bitter wife who won't forgive a simple mistake. And I need people to know the truth." Understanding dawned on her face. "You want to report him to the company. He violated workplace policies by having a relationship with a subordinate. That's not my fault or yours. That's his choice and his consequence. But I'll lose my job too. Probably. Is that worse than letting him get away with lying to both of us?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "He deserves to face consequences. He lied to me. Used me. Made me the other woman without my knowledge or consent. If reporting him means he finally faces real repercussions, then yes. I'll help you." I felt a strange kinship with this young woman. We'd both loved the same man. We'd both been deceived by him. We were both casualties of his selfishness. "Send me screenshots of everything," I said. "Messages, emails, anything that proves the relationship and timeline." She nodded and pulled out her phone immediately, fingers flying over the screen. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with incoming messages. "Evidence. Proof. Ammunition. What will you do with these?" Tonia asked. "Make sure Michael understands that actions have consequences. That he can't just move on with his life while we pick up the pieces of what he destroyed." She smiled sadly. "He told me you were passive. That you never stood up for yourself. That you just accepted whatever he said. He was right. That was who I was. But not anymore." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Tonia said quietly, "I really am sorry, Mrs. Okonkwo. Not just for my part in this, but for what he did to you. You deserved better." "We both did," I said. "And we'll both survive him." I left the coffee shop with my phone full of evidence and my mind full of plans. Michael had made a critical mistake. He'd assumed I would stay the woman he'd married, forgiving, passive, willing to absorb pain to keep the peace. But betrayal has a way of burning away your old self and revealing what's underneath. And underneath my heartbreak was rage. Underneath my tears was strategy. Underneath my pain was power. Michael was about to learn that the woman he'd underestimated was the most dangerous one of all. The war has officially begun. Ada's not just hurt anymore, she's armed with evidence and ready for battle. If you're on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment, Team Ada, or does she need to slow down? Because trust me, what comes next is going to blow your mind. Act 4 is where things get really intense. Monday morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Not peace, not happiness, but clarity. The kind that comes when you stop hoping things will magically get better and start accepting reality for what it is. My marriage was over. My husband was a liar. My future looked nothing like I'd planned. And I was going to make absolutely sure Michael paid for every second of pain he'd caused. I was staying at Kayamika's still, but I couldn't hide there forever. I had a life to rebuild, a job to get back to, and most importantly, a plan to execute. First stop, the law office. Barrister Ngozi Okafor came highly recommended by Kayamika's cousin who'd gone through a messy divorce 2 years prior. Her office was in Abuja Central, a modest space that radiated competence rather than flash. She was in her late 40s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter in your chair. "Mrs. Okonkwo," she greeted me, shaking my hand with a firm grip. "Kayamika told me a bit about your situation. Please sit. Tell me everything." I spent the next hour laying it all out. The affair. The lies. The hotel confrontation. The divorce papers I'd hastily drawn up myself. Michael's threats. The evidence I'd gathered from both his messages and Tonia's. Barrister Okafor listened without interrupting, taking notes occasionally, her expression neutral but attentive. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "First things first, those divorce papers you gave him are inadequate. You've essentially given away your rights to proper settlement. I don't want his money. I understand the sentiment, but this isn't about money. It's about justice. You've been married for 5 years. Under Nigerian law, you're entitled to a fair division of assets acquired during the marriage. The car you helped pay for when he got his first promotion. The furniture you bought together. Your contribution to his career advancement, the emotional labor, the support, the sacrifice of your own advancement to prioritize his. All of that has value. I hadn't thought about it that way. I just wanted to be free of him. And you will be. But you'll be free with what you're owed, not with scraps he's willing to throw you." She pulled out a fresh legal pad. "Now, regarding these messages and evidence of workplace misconduct, what exactly are you hoping to achieve?" "I want him to face professional consequences. He used his position to pursue a subordinate. He lied about his marital status. He used company resources for personal affairs. That has to violate some kind of workplace ethics code. It likely does. But Ada, I need you to think carefully about this path. Once you make this public, there's no taking it back. His career will be damaged, possibly destroyed. And that will affect you financially until the divorce is finalized. I have my own income. I'm a nurse, I can support myself. Can you support yourself through a potentially long legal battle if Michael decides to fight the divorce? Can you afford this legal representation if he cuts off access to joint accounts? Can you handle the social fallout when his family and friends blame you for destroying his career?" Each question landed like a punch. I hadn't thought through all the practical implications. "What are you saying? That I should just let him get away with it?" "I'm saying you need to be strategic. Emotional satisfaction is real, but so are practical consequences. Let me propose an alternative." I leaned forward. "I'm listening." "We use the evidence as leverage, not as a weapon. We refile for divorce with proper terms, fair asset division, compensation for your contributions to the marriage, and a clause that he covers your legal fees. If he resists, then we inform him that we have documentation of workplace misconduct that we're prepared to submit to his company's HR department. We give him a choice: settle fairly and privately or face public professional consequences." It made sense. Cold, calculated sense. And if he calls my bluff, then it's not a bluff. We follow through. But my experience tells me that men like Michael value their reputation above almost everything else. Faced with the choice between a fair settlement or career destruction, most choose the settlement. Most? Not all. Not all, she agreed. Which is why you need to be prepared for either outcome. Are you? Was I? Was I really ready to pull the trigger on destroying Michael's career if he didn't cooperate? I thought about the hotel room. His hands on Tonya. The messages talking about me like I was an inconvenience to be managed. His threats when I'd confronted him. His mother's voicemail calling it a misunderstanding. Yes, I said firmly. I'm prepared. Barrister Okafor smiled for the first time. Good. Then let's get to work. We spent the next 2 hours drafting proper divorce papers. Fair division of our joint savings. The car, a Honda Civic we'd bought together, would be mine since Michael had access to a company vehicle. Furniture would be divided based on who needed what. And Michael would cover all legal fees associated with the divorce. This is reasonable, Barrister Okafor said as we reviewed the final draft. Nothing excessive or punitive. Just fair. Which means if he fights it, he looks unreasonable. When do we send it? Today. Via courier to both his home and office address. And we include a private letter outlining the evidence we possess and the choice he has to make. How long does he have to respond? We'll give him 1 week. That's generous, but not so long that he has time to hide assets or build a defense. I signed the papers with hands that didn't shake. This was real. Official. The legal end of my marriage. What do I do in the meantime? I asked. You live your life. Go back to work. Spend time with friends and family who support you. Don't engage with Michael directly. Everything goes through me now. Don't respond to his calls, texts, or attempts to manipulate you. And Ada? Yes. Prepare yourself emotionally. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. He's going to try everything: guilt, anger, promises, threats. His family will get involved. People will take sides. You need a support system and thick skin. I thought about my mother, who still didn't know the full story. My brothers, who would want to physically confront Michael. The church community we'd been part of, where divorced women were whispered about. I'll handle it, I said with more confidence than I felt. That evening, I finally called my mother. Ada. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. What is this I'm hearing about you leaving your husband? Mama, I need to tell you something. And I need you to just listen, okay? And? What happened? I told her everything, not sparing any details. The affair, the hotel, the confrontation, the divorce papers. All of it. The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Mama? That stupid boy. Her voice was ice. That useless, foolish boy. After everything you did for him. After you stood by him when he had nothing. After you, she switched to Igbo, cursing in ways I hadn't heard since I was a child. Relief flooded through me. I'd been afraid she'd tell me to forgive him, to work it out, to be a good submissive wife. Instead, she was furious on my behalf. I'm divorcing him, Mama. Good. You should. A man who betrays you like that doesn't deserve a second chance. When are you coming home? Home. To the village. You can't stay in Abuja where everyone knows you as Michael's wife. Come home. Rest. Heal. Let your family take care of you. The offer was tempting. To run away from everything, hide in my mother's house, let her feed me and comfort me like I was a child again. But that wasn't healing. That was hiding. I can't, Mama. I have work. I have a life here. I can't let him chase me out of the city I've lived in for 8 years. She sighed. You're stubborn like your father. Fine. But you're not staying with that friend of yours forever. I'm coming to Abuja this weekend. We're finding you a proper place to stay. Mama, you don't have to. I'm your mother. This is what I do. See you Saturday. She hung up before I could argue. Kayamika found me smiling when she got home from work. Good news. My mother's coming this weekend to help me find an apartment. Thank God. Not that I don't love having you here, but you need your own space. Fresh start and all that. Thank you, Chi, for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out. You're stronger than you think. She paused. So, what happened with the lawyer? I filled her in on everything: the new divorce papers, the leverage strategy, the 1-week deadline. Smart, Kayamika said approvingly. Hit him in the wallet and the ego. That's the only language men like Michael understand. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ada, this is Michael's mother. We need to talk. Come to my house tomorrow evening. 6 p.m., don't be late. I showed Kayamika. Are you going to go? Should I? That depends. Are you prepared to have her try to guilt you into taking him back? Because that's definitely what this is. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to avoid the confrontation entirely. But another part, the part that was tired of being passive, wanted to face her head-on. I'll go, I decided. But on my terms. Tuesday dragged by at work. I'd taken Monday off, but had to return Tuesday or risk losing my job. The hospital was mercifully busy, which meant I didn't have time to think about my crumbling personal life. But during my lunch break, my phone exploded with messages. The first was from Michael. Ada, we need to talk. My lawyer said you've sent new divorce papers. This is insane. You're asking for way too much. Be reasonable. I deleted it without responding. The second was from a number I didn't recognize. This is Pastor Adeyemi from Faith Tabernacle. I heard about the troubles in your marriage and would like to offer counseling services. Please call me so we can arrange a meeting with you and Michael to work through this. I deleted that too. The last thing I needed was a pastor telling me to forgive and submit. The third was from Tonia, Mrs. Okonkwo. Michael came to my apartment last night. He was angry and desperate. He tried to convince me to say the affair was my idea, that I pursued him. I refused and told him we're done. I thought you should know he's starting to panic. Now that was interesting. Michael was scrambling, trying to control the narrative, trying to find someone to blame besides himself. Good. Let him panic. At 6 p.m. sharp, I arrived at Mrs. Okonkwo's house in Asakoro. It was a beautiful property. Michael's father had been a successful businessman before he passed away 5 years ago, and his mother lived comfortably on her widow's pension and investments. She answered the door herself, dressed in full traditional attire like she was receiving an official delegation. Ada, come in. The living room was exactly as I remembered, immaculate, expensive, intimidating. She gestured for me to sit on the couch. I remained standing. I prefer to stand, Ma. Her eyes narrowed. Sit down, Ada. We need to talk like civilized people. I'll stand, thank you. She studied me for a long moment, and I saw the exact moment she realized I wasn't the same compliant daughter-in-law she remembered. Fine. Stand if you must. She sat in her favorite armchair, arranging her wrapper precisely. Michael told me everything. About the girl at his office. About your discovery. About your overreaction. My overreaction? Yes. Filing for divorce over one mistake is extreme, Ada. All men make mistakes. All men stray occasionally. It's our job as wives to forgive and guide them back to the path. I almost laughed. Is that what you did when your husband strayed? Her face hardened. What my marriage was like is not your concern. But my marriage is yours? Michael is my son. His happiness is my concern. And this divorce will destroy his life, his reputation, his career. All because you can't forgive one indiscretion. One indiscretion? My voice rose despite my attempt to stay calm. Ma, with respect, this wasn't one mistake. This was 6 months of systematic lying. 6 months of him sleeping with another woman while coming home to me. 6 months of him planning to leave me while pretending everything was fine. That's not an indiscretion. That's betrayal. You're being dramatic. And you're being dismissive of your son's choices. He did this. Not me. I didn't force him to cheat. I didn't make him lie. I didn't push him into another woman's bed. He chose all of it. Because you probably weren't meeting his needs. A man doesn't stray from a happy home, Ada. What were you doing wrong that pushed him away? The words hit like a slap. She was blaming me. Of course she was. Because admitting her son was the problem meant admitting she'd raised someone capable of such cruelty. I loved him, I said quietly. I supported his career. I took care of our home. I was faithful and loyal and present. What exactly should I have done differently? You could have been more understanding of the pressures he faces. more accommodating of his needs. More what? More willing to ignore evidence of cheating? More accepting of being disrespected in my own marriage? More desperate to keep a man who clearly doesn't value me. Michael values you. He told me he wants to work things out. That he made a mistake and he's willing to do whatever it takes. Except take actual responsibility. Except face real consequences. Except tell you the truth about what he did. I stepped closer. I looked back at her. My pride? This isn't about pride, Ma. This is about dignity. This is about refusing to accept treatment I don't deserve. And yes, if being alone is the price of my dignity, then I'll pay it gladly. Because being alone is better than being with someone who betrays you and a family that blames you for it. I walked out before she could respond. My hands were shaking as I got into my car. That had been harder than I expected. Mrs. Okonkwo had been exactly what I anticipated, defensive of her son, dismissive of my pain, convinced that forgiveness was my duty. But I'd stood my ground. I hadn't cried. I hadn't apologized. I hadn't backed down. That had to count for something. My phone rang. Michael. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ada. Thank God. My mother just called me. She said you were disrespectful and stormed out of her house. What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Michael, your mother just spent 30 minutes telling me that your affair was my fault because I didn't meet your needs properly. She blamed me for your choices. And you're asking what's wrong with me? She's trying to help us. No, she's trying to protect you from consequences. There's a difference. Ada, these new divorce papers are ridiculous. You're asking for way more than you're entitled to. My lawyer says we can fight this, and you'll get nothing. Then fight it. And I'll submit evidence of your affair with a subordinate employee to your company's HR department. Your choice. Silence. You're bluffing. Am I? Tonia already told me you showed up at her place last night trying to get her to lie for you. She refused. She's willing to provide testimony about your relationship. So go ahead, Michael. Fight the divorce. See what happens. More silence. Then, you've really changed, Ada. This isn't the woman I married. No, it's not. The woman you married is gone. You killed her. This is who's left. I don't even recognize you anymore. Good. That means you're finally seeing me clearly. Sign the papers, Michael. Make this easy on both of us. And if I don't? Then my lawyer files them anyway and we go to court. And in court, everything becomes public record. All the messages. All the lies. All the evidence. Is that really what you want? I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end of the line. I need time to think. You have until Monday. That's the deadline my lawyer gave you. After that, we file regardless. This is blackmail. No, this is consequence. There's a difference. I hung up. Kayamika was right. This was getting ugly. But I was ready for ugly. Because ugly meant honest. Ugly meant real. Ugly meant no more pretending everything was fine when it was falling apart. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, Michael's betrayal, his mother's accusations, the divorce papers sitting in a lawyer's office, the deadline looming. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Patricia from St. Mary's Hospital. I don't know if you remember me. We worked together 3 years ago before I transferred to a different department. I heard about what's happening with you and Michael, and I thought you should know something. About 2 years ago, Michael came to the hospital looking for you. You were off shift. He asked me not to tell you he'd stopped by. He was with a woman. Not Tonia, someone else. They seemed very close. I didn't think much of it at the time, but given recent events, I thought you should know. I'm sorry to be the bearer of more bad news. I read the message 3 times. 2 years ago. A different woman. Before Tonia. This wasn't his first affair. It might not even be his second. I'd been a fool. Blind and trusting and so convinced of my husband's goodness that I'd missed every sign. How many others had there been? How many hotel rooms? How many lies? I forwarded the message to Barrister Okafor with a note. Possible evidence of pattern of behavior. Can we use this? She responded within minutes. Absolutely. This strengthens our case significantly. Screenshot everything. The hits kept coming. Wednesday, I received a call from our pastor. Sister Ada, I'm very concerned about the rumors I'm hearing about you and Brother Michael. Please tell me it's not true that you're seeking a divorce. It's true, Pastor. But why? What happened that's so terrible it can't be forgiven? I explained briefly the affair, the lies, the betrayal. I see. That's certainly difficult. But Sister Ada, the Bible is clear about forgiveness. We are called to forgive 70 times 7. Michael has repented. He wants to make things right. Surely you can find it in your heart to give him another chance. Pastor, did he tell you he repented? Or did he just tell you I was leaving him? Pause. He said he made a mistake and wanted to fix things. A mistake implies an accident. This was a choice he made repeatedly for 6 months. That's not the same thing. Nevertheless, marriage is a sacred covenant. God hates divorce. You have a duty to try to preserve your marriage. And Michael had a duty to honor his wedding vows. Where was God's teaching when he was breaking them? That's between him and God. But your response is between you and God. Don't let bitterness destroy your soul, Sister Ada. I was so tired of being told to forgive, to be understanding, to be the bigger person. Pastor, I appreciate your concern. But my decision is made. If you want to counsel someone about biblical marriage principles, maybe start with the person who violated them. I hung up before he could respond. Thursday brought a new complication. I was at work when one of my colleagues, Nurse Jennifer, pulled me aside. Ada, can we talk privately? We went into the staff break room. What's going on? I asked. She looked uncomfortable. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to be direct. There are rumors going around the hospital about you and Michael. People are saying you left him without cause, that you're being vindictive, that you're trying to destroy his career out of spite. My blood ran cold. Who's saying this? I don't know where it started. But it's spreading. Some of the older nurses are talking about how young wives these days don't know how to keep their marriages together. How you're throwing away a good man over nothing. Michael was getting ahead of the narrative, painting himself as the victim before I could tell the truth. Jennifer, the truth is that Michael had a 6-month affair with a woman at his workplace. I found out, confronted him, and filed for divorce. That's reality. Her eyes widened. I had no idea. The story going around is completely different. I know. He's controlling the narrative, making me the villain. What are you going to do? Tell the truth. To anyone who asks. I'm done protecting his reputation at the expense of mine. That afternoon, when another nurse made a comment about young women who don't understand commitment, I responded calmly and clearly. My husband had a 6-month affair. I found evidence. I confronted him. I filed for divorce. If you consider leaving a cheating spouse a failure of commitment, then I guess I'm guilty. Word spread fast after that. By the end of my shift, the rumor mill had new material, the truth. Friday evening, Barrister Okafor called. Ada, I received a response from Michael's lawyer. He's refusing to sign the divorce papers. He's claiming reconciliation is still possible and that you're acting hastily. What does that mean for us? It means we file anyway and prepare for court. But there's something else. His lawyer is also claiming that you're attempting to extort money from Michael by threatening to damage his career. That's not true. We offered him a choice, settle fairly or face consequences of his own actions. I know that. You know that. But his lawyer is trying to paint you as vindictive and money-hungry. We need to be prepared for him to fight dirty. So what do? We have 2 options. We can proceed to court and let a judge decide based on evidence. Or we can arrange a mediation session, neutral third party, both lawyers present, and you and Michael sit down and try to reach an agreement. I don't want to be in the same room as him. I understand. But mediation is faster and less expensive than a court battle. And if he's unreasonable during mediation, that actually helps our case if we do end up in court. I thought about it. The idea of sitting across from Michael, negotiating the end of our marriage like a business transaction, made me feel sick. But it might be the fastest path to freedom. Okay, set up the mediation. I'll contact his lawyer Monday morning. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend. Don't engage with Michael or his family. Let me handle everything. That Saturday, my mother arrived as promised with my 2 younger brothers. Emeka and Chitty took one look at me and immediately wanted to know where to find Michael. Nobody's fighting anyone, I said firmly. This is being handled legally. But Ada, Emeka said, he disrespected you. He disrespected our family. We can't just let that go. My mother silenced him with a look. Your sister is handling this her way. You will respect that. Now, we're here to help her find a place to live. Let's focus on that. We spent the day apartment hunting. By evening, we'd found a modest one-bedroom in Garki, not fancy, but clean, affordable, and most importantly, mine. I signed the lease that night. Sunday, I went to a different church. I couldn't face the whispers and judgment at Faith Tabernacle. Instead, I found a small assembly and was where nobody knew me or my story. The sermon was about new beginnings. About how God makes all things new. About how sometimes the end of something painful is actually the beginning of something beautiful. I cried through most of it. After service, an older woman approached me. My dear, I don't know your story, but I see pain in your eyes. Whatever you're going through, remember this. You are not what happened to you. You are not your worst moment. You are not your deepest wound. You are who you choose to be from this moment forward. Thank you, I managed. And another thing, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. Sometimes choosing yourself is the most faithful thing you can do. I hugged her, this stranger who somehow knew exactly what I needed to hear. Monday morning arrived with a message from Barrister Okafor. Mediation scheduled for Wednesday, 2 p.m. Michael's lawyer agreed. Be prepared, this will be difficult. But remember, you're not asking for anything unreasonable. You're asking for what you're owed. I had 2 days to prepare myself mentally and emotionally for sitting across from Michael and negotiating the death of our marriage. 2 days to gather my strength. 2 days to remind myself why I was doing this. Because I deserved better than betrayal. Because staying meant accepting that his actions had no real consequences. Because loving myself meant refusing to accept less than I was worth. Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept rehearsing what I would say, how I would react, how I would stay calm when all I wanted to do was scream. Kayamika found me at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep. Tomorrow I sit across from Michael and negotiate how to divide up the life we built together. How am I supposed to sleep? She sat on the edge of my bed. You're going to walk in there with your head high. You're going to be calm and dignified. You're going to remember that his attempts to manipulate you only work if you let them. And you're not going to let them. What if I break down? What if I can't handle seeing him? Then you take a break. You step out. You breathe. But Ada, you're stronger than you think. You've already survived the worst of it, the discovery, the confrontation, the devastation. This is just paperwork. Just logistics. Just the administrative end of something that's already over emotionally. She was right. The marriage had ended the first time Michael lied to sleep with another woman. Everything since then was just making it official. Thank you, Chief, for everything. That's what sisters do. Now try to get some sleep. You need to be sharp tomorrow. I finally drifted off around 4 a.m., dreaming of hotel rooms and divorce papers and futures I couldn't quite see clearly yet. The mediation is coming. Michael and Ada, face to face, negotiating the end of everything. If you're invested in Ada's journey, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. What do you think Michael will try to pull in mediation? Because I promise you, what happens in that room will change everything. Act 5 is where the devastation reaches its peak. Wednesday, 1:45 p.m. I sat in the waiting area of the mediation center in Maitama, wearing a navy blue dress that Kayamika had helped me pick out, professional, dignified, nothing that screamed either desperate wife or vengeful ex. Just a woman handling her business. Barrister Okafor sat beside me, reviewing her notes one last time. Remember, Ada, in mediation, emotion is weakness. He'll try to make you cry, make you angry, make you react. Don't give him that power. We state our terms, we listen to his, we negotiate based on law and fairness. Nothing else. I understand. And if at any point you need a break, you tell me. We can pause whenever necessary. The door opened and Michael walked in with his lawyer, Barrister Chukwuma, a man in his 50s with the kind of expensive suit that announced his fees before he spoke. Michael looked terrible. He'd lost weight, His eyes were hollow, and his usually immaculate appearance was slightly disheveled. For a moment, I felt something twist in my chest. Not love. Not anymore. But the ghost of what love used to be. He saw me and his face did something complicated: hope, pain, longing, anger, all at once. I looked away. The mediator, Mrs. Adebayo, entered and gestured us into the conference room. It was deliberately neutral, beige walls, a round table to discourage power dynamics, water bottles placed strategically, boxes of tissues that nobody wanted to need. We sat across from each other. Michael and his lawyer on one side. Me and Barrister Okafor on the other. Mrs. Adebayo at the head of the table. "Good afternoon," she began in a calm, measured voice. "I'm Mrs. Adebayo, and I'll be mediating this session. The goal here is to reach an amicable agreement regarding the dissolution of your marriage. Everything discussed here is confidential. I expect both parties to communicate respectfully and honestly. Shall we begin?" We both nodded. "Mrs. Okonkwo Ada, you filed for divorce citing irretrievable breakdown of the marriage due to adultery. You've submitted evidence to support this claim. Mr. Okonkwo, your lawyer has indicated you wish to contest certain aspects of the divorce settlement. Let's start with you, Barrister Chukwuma. What are your client's concerns?" Michael's lawyer pulled out a folder. "Mrs. Adebayo, my client acknowledges that mistakes were made in the marriage. However, we contend that Mrs. Okonkwo's settlement demands are excessive given the length of the marriage and her own earning capacity. Furthermore, my client maintains that reconciliation is still possible and that divorce is premature." Barrister Okafor didn't miss a beat. "Mrs. Adebayo, reconciliation requires two willing parties. Mrs. Okonkwo has made it clear she will not reconcile with a husband who carried on a 6-month affair with a subordinate employee, lied systematically about his whereabouts, and only expressed remorse after being caught. As for the settlement being excessive, we're asking for exactly what Nigerian matrimonial law provides for: fair division of assets, recognition of her contributions to the marriage, and legal fees. Nothing more." "Mrs. Adebayo," Barrister Chukwuma interjected, "we have reason to believe Mrs. Okonkwo is using threats regarding my client's employment to extort favorable terms. This is not good faith negotiation." My stomach dropped. But Barrister Okafor was ready. "That's a serious accusation with no basis in fact. We informed Mr. Okonkwo that evidence of workplace misconduct exists and gave him the opportunity to settle fairly before that evidence becomes public through court proceedings. That's not extortion, that's transparency about the consequences of his own choices." Mrs. Adebayo held up a hand. "Let's set aside the accusations and focus on the actual terms. Mrs. Okonkwo, can you walk me through what you're requesting?" I took a breath, grateful my voice came out steady. "I'm requesting fair division of our joint savings account, which currently holds approximately 3 million naira. I'm requesting the Honda Civic, which we purchased together during our marriage. I'm requesting my personal items and half of the furniture. And I'm requesting that Michael cover all legal fees associated with this divorce." "And what are you offering in return?" Mrs. Adebayo asked. "I'm waiving any claim to his pension, his salary, or future earnings. I'm not requesting alimony or spousal support of any kind. I simply want to walk away with what I contributed to and what I need to start over." Mrs. Adebayo turned to Michael. "Mr. Okonkwo, does this seem unreasonable to you?" Michael leaned forward and when he spoke, his voice cracked with emotion. "Mrs. Adebayo, I'm not fighting about money or cars. I don't care about any of that. I just want my wife back. I made a terrible mistake, the worst mistake of my life, and I'm begging for the chance to make it right. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, Ada. Please don't throw away 5 years over one mistake." There it was. The emotional manipulation Barrister Okafor had warned me about. I forced myself to look at him directly. "Michael, it wasn't one mistake. It was 6 months of deliberate choices. It was lying to my face every single day. It was taking another woman to the same hotel where we celebrated our anniversary. It was planning to leave me while still sleeping in my bed. Those weren't mistakes, they were decisions. I was confused. I was going through something. But I never stopped loving you. You don't love someone and betray them like that. People make mistakes, Ada. Even terrible ones. But we can work through this. Other couples have survived worse. Maybe they have. But I'm not willing to spend the rest of my life wondering when you'll get confused again. When you'll go through something again. When the next woman at your office will make you feel alive. I can't live like that. His eyes filled with tears. So that's it? 5 years mean nothing to you. They meant everything to me. But they clearly didn't mean the same to you. Barrister Chukwuma cleared his throat. Mrs. Adebayo, perhaps we can discuss the specific settlement terms. Mr. Okonkwo is willing to agree to the division of the savings account. However, the car is registered in his name, and we believe he should retain it. We're also concerned about the legal fees. The car was purchased with joint funds, Barrister Okafor interrupted. It may be registered in his name, but Mrs. Okonkwo contributed equally to its purchase. And regarding legal fees, it's standard practice for the party at fault to cover costs associated with the divorce they caused. At fault is a matter of perspective. Is it? Barrister Okafor's voice was ice. Your client had an affair. He lied about it for 6 months. There's documented evidence. I'm not sure what perspective makes that Mrs. Okonkwo's fault. The tension in the room was suffocating. Mrs. Adebayo intervened. Let's take a 15-minute break. Everyone step out, get some air, and we'll reconvene. I stood up quickly, needing to escape the room. Michael's tears, the weight of everything ending. Barrister Okafor followed me into the hallway. You're doing well. Stay strong. He's making me feel like the villain for not forgiving him. That's what he does. That's what men like him always do. They make the consequences of their actions seem worse than the actions themselves. Don't fall for it. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up, Michael was standing in the doorway. Ada, please. Can we talk? Just the two of us. No. Everything goes through the lawyers. I'm not your enemy. I'm your husband. The man you married. The man who loves you. You were my husband. Past tense. And love doesn't look like what you did to me. He stepped closer and I saw desperation in his eyes. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed your trust. But Ada, I need you. I can't do this life without you. You're my partner, my home, your safety net, I finished. Your reliable option while you explored others. I know what I was to you, Michael. And I'm done being that. That's not fair. What's not fair is you expecting me to forgive 6 months of betrayal because you're sad about facing consequences. It wasn't like that with Tonia. I was weak, I was stupid, but it didn't mean anything. Then why did you keep doing it? Why did you plan a future with her? Why did you tell her you were going to leave me? I never meant. Stop lying. My voice echoed in the hallway. Just stop. I've read the messages, Michael. All of them. I know exactly what you meant, what you planned, what you wanted. You wanted her. You wanted the excitement of something new. And you wanted me too, the security, the respectability, the comfort of home. You wanted everything without sacrificing anything. But that's not how life works. His face crumpled. I'm sorry. God, Ada, I'm so sorry. I would give anything to go back and make different choices. But you can't. None of us can. We only get to live with the choices we made. Barrister Okafor appeared at the end of the hallway. Ada, we need to get back. I started to walk away, but Michael grabbed my arm. Wait. There's something you need to know. Something I haven't told anyone. I pulled my arm free. What? He looked around to make sure we were alone, then said quietly, Tonia is pregnant. The world stopped. Everything, the hallway, the voices, my heartbeat, just stopped. What did you say? She told me yesterday. She's 8 weeks pregnant. It's mine. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what he'd just said. 8 weeks. That meant even after I'd confronted him in the hotel, even after everything fell apart, he'd gone back to her. He'd slept with her again. When? I managed. When what? When did you sleep with her after the hotel? After I caught you. He looked at the floor. That Sunday. After you left. I was devastated. I wasn't thinking clearly, and she called, and You went to her. Rage was building in my chest, hot and violent. I caught you betraying me, and your response was to go back to her. To sleep with her again. To get her pregnant. It was a mistake. Stop calling it a mistake. I was shouting now, past caring who heard. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. You deliberately went to another woman's bed while still married to me, while trying to convince me to take you back. That's not a mistake, that's who you are. Ada, please. Does she know you're here? Does she know you're fighting to save our marriage while she's pregnant with your child? He was crying openly now. I haven't told her about today. I don't know what to do. I don't love her, Ada. I love you. But there's a baby now and I can't just. Get away from me. My voice was shaking. Get away from me right now. Ada. I said get away. Barrister Okafor was there instantly, physically placing herself between us. Mr. Okonkwo, step back. Now. He did, hands raised, tears streaming down his face. I turned to my lawyer. I want everything. The car, the savings, legal fees, everything. And I want it in writing that he admits to adultery. All of it on record. Ada, Michael started. You're going to be a father to another woman's child. You don't get to beg me to stay anymore. You made your choice. Now live with it. I walked back into the mediation room, sat down, and looked at Mrs. Adebayo with a calm I didn't feel. Can we continue? Michael and his lawyer entered a moment later. Michael looked shattered, but I was past caring. Mrs. Adebayo sensed something had shifted. Is everything all right? Fine, I said. I'd like to revise my settlement terms. Barrister Chukwuma frowned. Mrs. Adebayo, we had agreed to the basic framework. Mr. Okonkwo just informed my client of new information that materially affects these proceedings. Barrister Okafor cut in smoothly. Information that demonstrates continued adultery even after the initial discovery. Mrs. Adebayo looked at Michael. Mr. Okonkwo? He couldn't meet her eyes. The woman I was involved with is pregnant. The mediator's expression didn't change, but I saw her pen pause over her notes. I see. And when did you learn this? Yesterday. And you didn't think this was relevant information to disclose before today's mediation? Barrister Chukwuma jumped in. Mrs. Adebayo, the pregnancy doesn't change the legal framework of the marital assets. It changes everything, I said quietly. It proves this wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It proves he continued the affair even after being caught. It proves he's starting a family with another woman while fighting to keep me in his life. That's not a man who wants reconciliation. That's a man who wants to avoid consequences. Mrs. Adebayo turned to Michael. Mr. Okonkwo, do you intend to maintain a relationship with this woman and the child? I don't know. I haven't decided. You don't get to decide that, I said, my voice hard. That child exists. You have a responsibility to it. Or are you planning to abandon it the way you abandoned our marriage vows? Ada, that's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, Michael. Fair would have been you keeping your promises. Fair would have been you respecting our marriage. Fair would have been you facing the consequences of your actions without trying to manipulate me into making them disappear. Barrister Okafor pulled out a revised settlement proposal. Mrs. Adebayo, given this new information, we're requesting the following. Full amount in the joint savings account, 3 million naira. The Honda Civic. Mrs. Okonkwo's personal items and choice of furniture up to 60% of total. All legal fees. And a written admission of adultery signed by Mr. Okonkwo to be included in the divorce decree. That's outrageous, Barrister Chukwuma sputtered. You're asking for everything. I'm asking for what I'm owed after being betrayed, lied to, and replaced by a woman who's now carrying his child. That seems fair to me. Michael spoke, his voice broken. Ada, I'll give you whatever you want. The money, the car, all of it. But please don't make me sign something publicly admitting. Admitting what you did? Admitting the truth? Why? Worried about what people will think? Worried about your reputation? Yes, he shouted, finally showing real emotion. Yes, I'm worried about my reputation. I have a career, a family, a position in society. If you make me publicly admit to adultery, it destroys all of that. Is that what you want? To ruin my entire life? You already did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. Mrs. Adebayo held up her hand. Let's all take a breath. Mr. Okonkwo, you understand that divorce on grounds of adultery requires proof of the adultery, correct? That's not Mrs. Okonkwo being vindictive. That's the legal process. But it doesn't have to be public record, does it? Can't we divorce on other grounds? Irreconcilable differences or something? Barrister Okafor spoke before I could. If Mr. Okonkwo wants to avoid public admission of adultery, he can agree to our settlement terms and we can file the divorce under mutual consent. But that requires him to agree to everything we've requested. It was brilliant. She'd just given Michael a choice: admit publicly to adultery and fight over assets, or agree to our terms and keep it quiet. Michael looked at his lawyer, who was calculating rapidly. Can we have a private consultation? Barrister Chukwuma asked. Of course, Mrs. Adebayo said. 15 minutes. They left the room. Barrister Okafor turned to me. You holding up? He got her pregnant. I felt like I was going to be sick. Even after everything, he went back to her and got her pregnant. I know. But Ada, listen to me. This is actually good for our case. It proves pattern of behavior. It proves he's not interested in reconciliation. It gives us leverage. I don't feel leveraged. I feel destroyed. You're not destroyed. You're angry. And right now, anger is useful. Let it fuel you through the rest of this session. Michael and his lawyer returned. Michael looked defeated. We'll agree to your terms, Barrister Chukwuma said stiffly. The full savings amount, the car, Mrs. Okonkwo's choice of furniture, and legal fees. In exchange, we file the divorce under mutual consent with no public details about the reasons. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt empty. Fine, I said. Mrs. Adebayo started drafting the agreement. Michael stared at the table, unable to look at me. There's one more thing, I said quietly. Everyone looked up. I wanted in writing that Michael has no claim to any future earnings or assets I acquire. And I want the same protection for him. I have no claim to his future. Clean break. Complete separation. Nothing tying us together legally or financially after this is finalized. That's standard in divorce agreements, Mrs. Adebayo said. I can include that language. And I want the divorce finalized as quickly as possible. What's the timeline? If both parties agree and sign today, we can file tomorrow. Divorce decree should be granted within 3 months, possibly sooner if there are no complications. 3 months until I was officially free. 90 days to the end of my marriage. It felt both too long and too fast. Mrs. Adebayo worked on the documents for the next hour while we sat in excruciating silence. Finally, she pushed 2 copies across the table. Review these carefully. If you're both satisfied, sign at the bottom of each page. I read through every word, making sure there were no loopholes, no tricks, no ways for Michael to come back later with claims or demands. It was all there. Everything we'd agreed to. The end of us in legal terms and conditions. I signed. Michael hesitated, pen hovering over the signature line. Michael, his lawyer said quietly. It's time. He signed with shaking hands. Congratulations, Mrs. Adebayo said, though her tone suggested nothing about this was celebratory. You've reached an agreement. I'll file these with the court tomorrow. You should both receive copies of the divorce decree in approximately 10 to 12 weeks. We stood. I gathered my things mechanically, feeling disconnected from my body. Ada, wait, Michael said as I headed for the door. I paused but didn't turn around. I really am sorry. For all of it. I know you don't believe me, but I need you to know that I loved you. I still love you. And I'll regret losing you for the rest of my life. I looked back at him one last time. I believe you'll regret it, Michael. But not because you lost me. Because you lost the life we could have had. The children we would have raised together. The future we planned. You'll regret losing all of that. But me? The actual person I am? I don't think you ever really knew me well enough to miss me specifically. I walked out of the mediation center, out into the Abuja afternoon heat, and got into Barrister Okafor's car. Take me home, I said. Then I realized I didn't know where home was anymore. Not the house I'd shared with Michael. Not permanently at Kayamika's. Take me to my new apartment. I'll text you the address. She drove in silence while I stared out the window, watching the city I'd lived in for 8 years like it was somewhere I'd never been. You did well in there, Barrister Okafor said finally. You stayed strong. He's having a baby with her. I know. While he was trying to convince me to take him back, He was sleeping with her. While he was calling me, texting me, showing up at his mother's house to plan how to save our marriage, he was with her. Some men are like that. They want everything. They think they deserve everything. I gave him 5 years of my life. And now you get the rest of your life back. That's not nothing, Ada. We pulled up to my new apartment building. I'd signed the lease but hadn't moved in yet. It was just an empty space waiting for me to fill it. Thank you, I said. For everything. I'll be in touch when the divorce decree is ready. Try to rest. The hard part is over. But she was wrong. I walked into my empty apartment, closed the door behind me, and finally let myself fall apart. The sobs came from somewhere deep, somewhere I'd been holding them back for days. I cried for my marriage. For the children I'd never have with Michael. For the future that had been stolen. For the woman I'd been who believed in forever. I cried until there was nothing left. Then I lay on the floor of my empty apartment and stared at the ceiling, feeling completely hollowed out. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Tonia. Michael told me about the mediation. I'm so sorry for everything. I know I'm part of why your marriage ended. But I thought you should know Michael came to see me yesterday. He said he doesn't want this baby. He asked me to take care of it. I told him no. I'm keeping this child. And I'm done with him. I just thought you should know the kind of man we were both involved with. I read it 3 times. He'd asked her to get rid of the baby. His own child. Because it was inconvenient. Because it complicated his attempts to manipulate me. This was who Michael really was. Not the charming man I'd married. Not the devoted husband he pretended to be. But someone who destroyed everything he touched and then tried to convince everyone else they were the problem. I was done crying for him. I stood up, wiped my face, and looked around my empty apartment. This was my blank slate. My fresh start. My chance to rebuild a life where I wasn't an option or a safety net or a placeholder. I was free. It didn't feel good yet. It felt terrifying and painful and uncertain. But it was mine. And that was something. Ada's walked away from the mediation with everything she asked for, but the cost was higher than she ever imagined. Michael's pregnant mistress. His continued lies. His true character finally exposed. If you're feeling the story, hit that like and subscribe. Comment below, did Ada do the right thing, or should she have fought for even more? Because Act 6 is going to show you just how low Michael can go when he realizes he's truly lost control. The first week in my new apartment was the loneliest time of my life. Kayamika and my mother helped me move my things from the house I'd shared with Michael. It wasn't much, half the furniture we'd agreed on, my clothes, personal items, kitchen supplies. Everything fit into one small truck. 5 years of marriage reduced to boxes that filled only half of a 1-bedroom apartment. Michael wasn't there when we came. His lawyer had arranged for him to be absent, which I was grateful for. I didn't want to see his face. Didn't want to hear more apologies or justifications or lies. But walking through that house one last time hurt more than I expected. The kitchen where we'd cooked together on weekends. The couch where we'd watched movies and planned our future. The bedroom where we'd made love and whispered promises we both thought would last forever. All of it was now just a place I used to live. Nothing more. Ada, you ready? Kayamika asked gently, finding me standing in the empty bedroom. Yeah, let's go. I didn't look back as we drove away. The new apartment felt sterile. Empty. Like a hotel room rather than a home. I unpacked mechanically, clothes in the closet, dishes in the cabinets, toiletries in the bathroom, but nothing felt right. This wasn't home. This was just a place I was staying until I figured out what home meant anymore. My mother stayed for 3 days, cooking meals I barely ate, cleaning spaces that were already clean, trying to fill the silence with conversation about relatives and church gossip and anything except the elephant in the room. On the 3rd night, she finally said what she'd been holding back. Ada, I'm worried about you. I'm fine, Mama. You're not fine. You barely eat. You don't sleep. You move through this apartment like a ghost. What do you want me to say? That I'm happy my marriage ended? That I'm thrilled to be starting over at 32. She sat down beside me on the couch. I want you to say what you're really feeling. Not the strong face you show everyone. The real feelings. I was quiet for a long time. Then, I feel like a failure. You're not. Let me finish. I feel like a failure. Like I wasn't enough to keep my husband faithful. Like I did something wrong that pushed him away. Like if I'd been prettier, more exciting, more understanding, more something, he wouldn't have needed someone else. Ada, that's not true. His choices are not your fault. Everyone keeps saying that. But Mama, I was his wife. It was my job to make him happy. And clearly I failed. My mother grabbed my face with both hands, forcing me to look at her. Listen to me carefully. It was not your job to make him happy. That's not how marriage works. Marriage is two people choosing each other every single day. You chose him every day for 5 years. He stopped choosing you. That's on him, not you. Then why do I feel so worthless? Because betrayal makes you question everything. Makes you wonder if you were ever really loved at all. Makes you feel like you're not enough. But Ada, that's the lie. The truth is that Michael was never enough of a man to honor his vows, never enough of a husband to appreciate what he had, never enough of a human being to face consequences without trying to make himself the victim. I started crying again. I was so tired of crying, but the tears kept coming. How do I stop feeling like this? Time. And choosing yourself the way you chose him. Every day, you wake up and you choose to believe you're worthy of better. Eventually, you'll believe it. She left the next morning, making me promise to call her every day and to eat properly and to not isolate myself. I promised. But the moment she was gone, the silence of the apartment became deafening. I went back to work the following Monday. My colleagues were kind but curious, asking carefully worded questions about how I was doing, if I needed anything, offering support that felt more like pity. The whispers followed me through the hospital corridors. Poor thing. I heard her husband got someone else pregnant. She's so young to be divorced. What will she do now? I wanted to scream at all of them. Instead, I smiled politely and focused on my patients. Work was supposed to be a distraction. Instead, it was a constant reminder of normal life going on around me while mine had imploded. 2 weeks after the mediation, I received a letter from Michael's lawyer. The divorce proceedings were being delayed. My client has requested additional time to review the settlement agreement. He has concerns about certain clauses and wishes to renegotiate terms. We request a postponement of the court filing until these issues can be resolved. I called Barrister Okafor immediately. What does this mean? We had an agreement. He signed it. It means he's stalling. Probably hoping you'll get desperate and accept less. Or that you'll agree to reconciliation. That's not happening. I know. But Ada, this could drag things out. If he wants to fight every clause, if he requests multiple mediations, if he files countermotions, we could be looking at 6 months to a year before this is finalized. My stomach dropped. A year. Possibly. I'm sorry. I'll file a motion to enforce the original agreement, but if he's determined to make this difficult, there's a process we have to follow. Why is he doing this? He agreed to everything. He signed the papers. Because he's realized that once this divorce is final, he loses all access to you. All possibility of reconciliation. All control. Men like Michael hate losing control more than anything. I hung up feeling sick. A year. Potentially a year of being legally tied to Michael while he delayed and stalled and tried to manipulate the situation. That night, Michael called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What do you want, Michael? Ada, we need to talk about these divorce papers. Everything goes through the lawyers. You know that. I can't afford what we agreed to. The full savings account, the car, your legal fees, it's too much. I need some of that money for other things. For Tonia? For the baby you asked her to abort? Silence. Then, how do you know about that? She told me. She told me you tried to convince her to get rid of your child because it was inconvenient. It's not that simple. I can't afford to support a child right now. Not with the divorce settlement taking everything. That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before you got her pregnant. Ada, please. I'm drowning here. The settlement is going to leave me with almost nothing. My mother is furious with me. My job is at risk because rumors are spreading about the affair. I have nowhere to live because I can't afford rent after giving you all the savings. I need you to be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You're getting to keep your salary, your pension, your future earnings. All I'm taking is what we built together and what I contributed to. That's fair. Fair. His voice rose. Fair would be recognizing that I'm about to have a child to support. Fair would be understanding that I'm barely holding my life together. Fair would be showing some compassion for the fact that I'm suffering too. You're suffering? You're suffering. I was shouting now. You destroyed our marriage. You lied for 6 months. You got another woman pregnant. And you want me to feel sorry for you because you're facing consequences? I made mistakes, Ada. But I'm still a human being. I'm still the man you married. Doesn't that count for anything? No, it doesn't. Not anymore. Fine. Then I'm not signing anything. I'm going to fight this divorce with everything I have. If you want to be free of me so badly, you're going to have to earn it. You already signed the agreement. And now I'm unsigning it. My lawyer says I can contest it based on duress. That you threatened my career to force my compliance. We'll see how sympathetic a judge is to that. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, shaking with rage and frustration. He was going to drag this out. Make it as painful and expensive and drawn out as possible. Punish me for not forgiving him. For not accepting his lies. For not making his consequences disappear. The next month was a nightmare. Michael's lawyer filed motion after motion, requesting financial disclosure of my accounts, questioning my contributions to the marriage, suggesting that I was exaggerating the affair to gain sympathy, claiming emotional distress and manipulation. Each motion required a response. Each response cost money. Each delay pushed the divorce further away. Barrister Okafor was excellent, but her fees were adding up faster than I could pay them. I started picking up extra shifts at the hospital, working doubles and nights, anything to afford the legal battle Michael was waging. I was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, financially drained. And then things got worse. I came home one evening to find my apartment had been broken into. Nothing valuable was taken. Not my laptop. Not my jewelry. Not my electronics. But everything was disturbed. Drawers opened. Closets searched. Papers scattered. Someone had been looking for something. I called the police, filed a report, but they were skeptical. Are you sure something was taken? Because if nothing's missing, it's probably just kids messing around. But I knew better. I called Barrister Okafor. He's looking for something to use against you in court. Probably hoping to find evidence that you're hiding money or assets. Or something embarrassing he can use for leverage. That's illegal. So is breaking and entering. But can you prove it was him? Do you have security footage? Witnesses? Anything concrete? No. Then it's just suspicion. But Ada, you need to be careful. Change your locks. Consider a security system. And for God's sake, don't keep anything sensitive in your apartment. I changed the locks that night. But the damage was done. I didn't feel safe anymore. Not in my apartment. Not at work where colleagues whispered. Not at church where I'd stopped attending because I couldn't handle the judgment. Nowhere felt safe. I started having panic attacks. Random moments where my chest would tighten, my breathing would become shallow, and I'd feel like I was dying. The first one happened at work. I was checking a patient's vitals when suddenly the room started spinning. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't function. Kayamika found me hyperventilating in the supply closet. Ada, what's happening? Talk to me. I can't. I can't breathe. I can't. She helped me through it, controlled breathing, counting backwards, grounding techniques. Eventually, the panic subsided, leaving me shaking and exhausted. This is the 3rd time this month, she said gently. Ada, you need help. Professional help. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're having panic attacks. You're barely sleeping. You've lost so much weight that your scrubs don't fit anymore. This is not fine. I just need to get through the divorce. Once it's finalized, I'll be okay. And what if it takes a year? 2 years? Are you going to fall apart completely before then? I didn't have an answer. She scheduled an appointment with a therapist for me. Dr. Amara specialized in trauma and divorce recovery. I almost didn't go. But the panic attacks were getting worse, and I was desperate. Dr. Amara was in her 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Tell me what brought you here," she said during our first session. I told her everything. The affair, the betrayal, the divorce battle, the break-in, the panic attacks, the feeling of drowning in consequences that weren't even mine. She listened without judgment, taking notes occasionally. When I finished, she said simply, "Ada, you're experiencing complex trauma. What your husband did wasn't just infidelity, it was a systematic betrayal that's shaken your ability to trust reality itself. And now he's continuing the abuse through the legal system, keeping you trapped in a cycle of stress and uncertainty. This is not something you can just push through. You need support." I don't have time for support. I have to work. I have to fight this divorce. I have to. You have to survive. That's your only job right now. Survive and heal. Everything else is secondary. I can't afford to fall apart. You can't afford not to. Because right now, you're breaking down in pieces. Better to take time to heal properly than to shatter completely. She recommended I take medical leave from work. Just 2 weeks to rest, to process, to start therapy properly. I refused. I couldn't afford to lose income, not with legal fees piling up. But 2 days later, I collapsed at work. One moment I was walking down a corridor, the next I was on the floor with colleagues surrounding me, calling for a doctor, checking my vitals. They admitted me overnight for observation. Exhaustion, malnutrition, severe stress. The doctor's diagnosis was clinical, but the meaning was clear. I was destroying myself. My supervisor came to see me the next morning. "Ada, I'm putting you on mandatory medical leave. 2 weeks paid. You're not coming back until a doctor clears you." "I'm fine. I just need." "You collapsed. At work. You're not fine. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to end up back here as a patient instead of a nurse." I wanted to argue, but I was too tired. Kayamika picked me up from the hospital and drove me home. "You're staying with me," she announced. "Not up for discussion. You're not isolating yourself in that apartment." No arguments. "You're a flight risk right now. I'm not leaving you alone." So I moved back into her guest room, feeling like I was regressing instead of moving forward. The medical leave should have been restful. Instead, it was torture. With nothing to distract me, I had to face everything I'd been running from. The pain, the betrayal, the grief of losing not just my husband, but my entire future as I'd imagined it. Dr. Amara scheduled daily sessions that week. "Tell me about the woman you were before Michael," she said during one session. I thought about it. Confident. Independent. I had dreams. I wanted to maybe go back to school, specialize in pediatric nursing. I wanted to travel. I wanted a lot of things. And what happened to those dreams? They became our dreams. What we wanted. Where we were going together. I stopped thinking about what I wanted and started thinking about what was good for us. That's common in relationships. But Ada, you still exist as an individual. You're not just someone's wife. You're a person with desires and goals and value completely separate from any relationship. I don't know who that person is anymore. Then maybe this divorce, as painful as it is also an opportunity to rediscover who you are, who you want to be, what you want from life." I started crying. Again. I cried so much in therapy that Dr. Amara kept a box of tissues permanently on the table between us. I don't want to be starting over at 32. I want to have the life I planned. I want the children I was supposed to have. I want the future I worked for. I know. And it's okay to grieve that loss. You're allowed to mourn the future that was stolen from you. When does it stop hurting? There's no timeline for grief. But eventually, the pain becomes less sharp. Eventually, you'll have days where you don't think about him at all. Eventually, you'll build a new future that's even better than the one you lost. I don't believe that. You don't have to believe it yet. Just don't give up before you get there. 3 weeks into my medical leave, I received a letter from Michael's lawyer that made my blood run cold. My client is filing a countersuit claiming that Mrs. Okonkwo has been engaging in defamatory statements about him to colleagues, family, and community members. He is requesting damages for harm to his reputation and professional standing. I read it 3 times, unable to believe what I was seeing. He was suing me for telling the truth about what he'd done. I called Barrister Okafor in a panic. Can he do this? Can he actually sue me for defamation? He can file the suit. Whether it has merit is another question. Ada, what exactly have you said to people about the divorce? Just the truth. That he had an affair. That's it. To whom? My family. Kayamika. Some colleagues who asked what was happening. I didn't lie or exaggerate. I just told them the facts. And do you have proof of the affair? The messages, the hotel bookings, all of it. Yes. You have copies of everything. Then his defamation suit won't hold up. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. But Ada, this is a harassment tactic. He's trying to intimidate you into silence. Trying to make you too afraid to speak the truth. It's working. I'm terrified. Don't be. We'll file a response. We'll provide evidence that everything you said was truthful, and the case will be dismissed. But it's going to cost more money and take more time. More money. More time. More stress. I was drowning. That night, I stood on Kayamika's balcony and looked down at the street below. It was only 3 stories, but for a moment, just a brief, terrible moment, I wondered what would happen if I jumped. The thought terrified me so much that I stepped back immediately, shaking. I wasn't suicidal. I didn't want to die. But I was so tired of fighting, so exhausted from the constant battle, that for just a second, the idea of not existing anymore seemed like relief. I went back inside and called Dr. Amara's emergency line. I'm scared, I told her when she answered. I'm scared of what I'm thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. I told her about the balcony. About the brief moment of temptation. Ada, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What you're experiencing is called passive suicidal ideation. It's not uncommon in severe depression and trauma. But it's also a sign that you need more intensive support. I want you to check yourself into a treatment program. I can't afford. There are programs. I can help you find one. But Ada, you need help beyond our weekly sessions. You need somewhere safe where you can focus entirely on healing without the pressure of work or legal battles or anything else. I can't just disappear from my life. Your life will still be there when you come back. But you won't be there if you don't take care of yourself right now. She was right. I knew she was right. But admitting I needed that level of help felt like admitting defeat. I told Kayamika about the conversation. She didn't hesitate. You're going. I'll help you find a program. I'll handle your apartment. I'll communicate with your lawyer. You're going to take care of yourself because if you don't, you won't survive this. What about the divorce? The legal battles? They'll be there when you get back. But right now, you need to prioritize your mental health. Nothing else matters if you're not okay. Within 2 days, Dr. Amara had found me a spot in a residential trauma recovery program about an hour outside Abuja. It was expensive, but they had a sliding scale based on income, and Kayamika helped me apply for a grant that covered most of the cost. I was scheduled to enter the following Monday for a 30-day program. 30 days away from everything. From the legal battle. From the whispers. From the constant stress. Part of me was terrified. Part of me was relieved. The Friday before I was supposed to check in, Michael called. Ada, I heard you're going into some kind of treatment program. How did you know that? Doesn't matter. Are you okay? Are you having some kind of breakdown? The concern in his voice made me want to scream. You don't get to ask if I'm okay. You don't get to pretend you care about my well-being while you're suing me and dragging out our divorce and making my life hell. I do care about you. I never wanted this to destroy you. Then why are you doing this? Why are you fighting the settlement we agreed on? Why are you suing me for defamation? Why are you making this as painful as possible? Because I'm angry. Okay. I'm angry that you won't forgive me. I'm angry that you're throwing away our marriage over one mistake. I'm angry that you're moving on with your life while mine is falling apart. Your life is falling apart because of your choices, not mine. My life is falling apart because you're punishing me. You could make all of this go away if you just gave us another chance. I laughed. Actually laughed. A bitter, broken sound. Michael, do you hear yourself? You're suing me, stalling our divorce, and making my life a living hell because I won't take you back. That's not love. That's control. That's abuse. I'm not abusive. I'm hurt. You're both. And I'm done being your target. Sign the divorce papers. Drop the defamation suit. Let me go. And if I don't? Then we go to court and everything becomes public record. Every message. Every lie. Every detail of your affair and your pregnant mistress and your attempts to manipulate both of us. Is that really what you want? Silence. Then, I'll think about it. He hung up. I spent the weekend packing for the treatment program. Comfortable clothes. Toiletries. A journal Dr. Amara recommended I keep. Sunday night, Kayamika drove me to the facility. It was a quiet compound with gardens and therapy rooms and an atmosphere of forced peace. You're going to be okay, she said as we pulled up. This is going to help. What if it doesn't? What if I'm just broken now? You're not broken. You're wounded. And wounds heal. It just takes time. I hugged her, grateful for a friend who'd stood by me through everything. Then I walked into the facility, checked in at reception, and was shown to a small but comfortable room that would be mine for the next month. A month to focus on nothing but healing. A month away from Michael's manipulation. A month to remember who I was before him. As I unpacked my things, I found a note in my bag. Kayamika's handwriting. Ada, you are stronger than you know. You are worthy of love and peace and joy. You will survive this. And on the other side, you will thrive. I promise. Chi. I put the note on my nightstand where I could see it every morning. Then I lay down on the bed and cried for everything I'd lost. But underneath the tears was something new. A tiny spark of hope. Maybe Kayamika was right. Maybe I would survive this. Maybe this descent into darkness was necessary before I could find my way back to light. Maybe the worst was finally behind me. I didn't know yet that I was wrong. The worst was still coming. Ada's at her lowest point, broken down, traumatized, barely surviving. She's seeking help because she has to. But Michael's not done with her yet. Not by a long shot. If you're still with Ada on this journey, hit that subscribe button and comment below. Have you ever had to choose between your mental health and fighting someone who hurt you? Because Act 7 is going to show you what happens when Ada starts to heal, and how Michael reacts when he realizes she's becoming someone he can't control anymore. The first week at Serenity Heights Recovery Center was harder than I expected. They took my phone on day 1. No contact with the outside world except supervised calls twice a week, the intake counselor explained. You need to disconnect from the sources of stress to truly heal. I felt naked without it. Vulnerable. What if my lawyer needed to reach me? What if Michael did something else? What if? Ada, my assigned therapist, Dr. Shinonso, said gently during our first session. I need you to hear this. The world will keep turning without you monitoring it every second. Your job right now isn't to fight battles. It's to survive. To heal. To remember who you are. The program was intense. Individual therapy every morning. Group therapy every afternoon. Meditation, journaling, art therapy, nutrition counseling. Every hour of the day was structured, designed to keep us from retreating into our own darkness. I resisted at first. In group therapy, I sat silent while others shared their traumas, abusive marriages, addiction, loss, betrayal. Their pain was real, but I couldn't connect to it. Couldn't open up. On day 4, Dr. Shinonso called me out. Ada, you've been here for 4 days and you've barely spoken. Why are you here if you're not going to participate? I am participating. I'm listening. Listening isn't enough. Healing requires vulnerability. It requires you to speak your truth out loud, not just carry it silently. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell these people why you're here. What brought you to the point where you needed residential treatment? I looked around the circle. 8 other women, all at various stages of healing from various traumas. They were watching me with understanding, not judgment. Something in me cracked. My husband had a 6-month affair, I said quietly. Got another woman pregnant. And when I tried to divorce him, he turned it into a war. He's suing me, dragging out the proceedings, making my life hell because I won't forgive him. And it broke me. It broke me so completely that I stood on a balcony and wondered what would happen if I jumped. That's why I'm here. Silence. Then one of the women, Sarah, reached over and squeezed my hand. Welcome, she said simply. Now the real work can begin. And she was right. Once I started talking, I couldn't stop. In individual sessions, I unpacked everything, not just Michael's betrayal, but my own complicity in losing myself. How I'd made him the center of my universe. How I'd sacrificed my dreams for our dreams. How I'd ignored red flags because I was so desperate to believe in the fairy tale. You didn't cause his affair, Dr. Shinonso reminded me constantly. But you did make yourself small to fit into his life. And now you have an opportunity to expand again. To take up space. To remember that you're a whole person, not half of a broken unit. In group therapy, I heard stories that put my own pain in perspective. Women who'd survived physical abuse. Women who'd lost children. Women who'd been betrayed by entire families, not just spouses. Their strength humbled me. One woman, Blessing, had been married for 15 years when she discovered her husband had a second family in another state. 2 other children. Another wife who'd believed she was the only one. How did you survive that? I asked her one afternoon. By realizing that his lies said nothing about my worth, she said. He could convince 2 women to marry him because he was a good liar, not because we were stupid. And once I stopped blaming myself for his deception, I could start healing from it. I started journaling every night. Pages and pages of pain and rage and grief. But also, slowly, memories of who I'd been before Michael. Ada, the nursing student who'd graduated top of her class. Ada, the daughter who'd made her father proud. Ada, the friend who'd been loyal and fierce. Ada, the woman who'd had dreams and ambitions and a fire that somewhere along the way had been extinguished. By week 2, something was shifting. The panic attacks were less frequent. I was sleeping better. The constant knot in my chest was starting to loosen. I was beginning to remember what it felt like not to live in survival mode. On day 15, I had my supervised phone call with Kayamika. Ada, how are you? Are they treating you okay? I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. This place. Chi, it's helping. You sound different. Lighter. I feel lighter. For the first time in months, I'm not carrying the weight of Michael's choices. I'm just here. Present. Focused on myself. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. How are things there? The divorce. Barrister Okafor is handling everything. Michael's defamation suit was thrown out. Judge ruled that truth is an absolute defense. And she's filed a motion to compel him to honor the original settlement agreement. Court date is set for 2 weeks from now. Will I need to be there? Possibly. But Barrister Okafor thinks she can handle it without you if necessary. How much longer are you in the program? 2 more weeks. I'm thinking about extending if they'll let me. Whatever you need, Ada. Just focus on getting better. After the call, I felt peaceful. Things were moving forward without me having to control every detail. The legal system was working. My lawyer was competent. The world hadn't fallen apart just because I'd stepped back. Maybe I didn't have to carry everything alone. In week 3, we had a session on forgiveness. I bristled immediately. I'm not forgiving Michael. That's not why I'm here. Dr. Shinonso smiled. Forgiveness isn't about him, Ada. It's about you. It's about releasing the anger that's poisoning you. My anger isn't poison. It's justified. It can be both. You have every right to be angry. But if you hold on to that anger forever, it will consume you. Forgiveness doesn't mean what he did was okay. It means you're choosing peace over revenge. Freedom over bitterness. I wasn't ready to hear it. But she planted a seed. On day 22, something unexpected happened. During free time, I was in the garden reading when another resident, Ngozi, sat down beside me. Can I talk to you? She asked. Of course. I've been watching you these past 3 weeks. You've transformed. When you arrived, you were a ghost. Now you're actually present. How did you do it? I thought about it. I stopped fighting. I stopped trying to control everything. I just surrendered to the process. I'm struggling with that. Surrendering. I keep thinking if I just figure out the right thing to do, the right thing to say, I can fix my marriage. You can't fix someone else's choices. I learned that the hard way. But if I just try harder. No. I surprised myself with the firmness in my voice. That's the lie we tell ourselves. That if we're just better, more understanding, more forgiving, more patient, we can make them change. But you can't. They have to want to change. And if they don't, no amount of trying harder will make a difference. She started crying. So I should just give up? Not give up. Choose yourself. There's a difference. That conversation marked a turning point. I wasn't just healing, I was becoming someone who could help others heal. Someone with wisdom earned through pain. On day 25, I had a breakthrough in therapy. Dr. Shinonso asked me a question I'd been avoiding. Ada, what would you say to Michael if you could say anything without consequences? I'd been asked versions of this before and always deflected. But that day, something in me was ready. I would tell him that he stole 5 years of my life. Not because we were married for 5 years, but because I gave him the best parts of myself and he threw them away like they meant nothing. I would tell him that I hope the guilt eats him alive. That I hope he never finds peace. That I hope every woman he meets from now on sees him for exactly who he is, a liar and a coward who destroys everything he touches. Dr. Shinonso wrote something down. Anything else? Yes. Tears were streaming down my face now. I would thank him for showing me who he really was before I wasted more years. Before we had children who would have been casualties of his selfishness. Before I invested more of myself in a man who didn't deserve me. His betrayal saved me from a longer, deeper pain. So yes, I would thank him. And then I would tell him to never contact me again. Something released in my chest when I said it. Like a pressure valve opening. Dr. Shinonso smiled. Write that down. Everything you just said. Write it in a letter to him. I'm not sending him a letter. You're not sending it. You're writing it for you. To externalize the pain. To give it form. And then you're going to do something symbolic with it. Burn it, bury it, whatever feels right. But you're going to physically release it. That night, I wrote the letter. 7 pages of raw truth. Everything I'd wanted to say but couldn't. All the pain he'd caused. All the ways he'd failed me. All the anger and grief and devastation. And then, at the end, the gratitude. For showing me his true colors. For forcing me to choose myself. For inadvertently giving me the push I needed to become someone stronger. The next day, in a ceremonial fire the center held for releasing the past, I burned it. Watching those pages curl and blacken and turn to ash, I felt something lift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But release. I wasn't carrying Michael's betrayal anymore. I was simply acknowledging it happened and choosing to move forward anyway. On day 28, Kayamika came to visit during family day. She took one look at me and burst into tears. Ada, you look like yourself again. I feel like myself. For the first time in months. We walked through the gardens, and I told her everything I'd learned. About choosing myself. About releasing what I couldn't control. About the difference between forgiveness and freedom. I'm so proud of you, she said. You went into the darkness and came back out. Not everyone does that. I'm not all the way out yet. But I can see light now. That's something. What happens when you leave here? When you go back to the divorce battle and Michael's games? I don't know. But I know I'm not going back as the same woman who checked in. That woman was broken, desperate, barely surviving. This woman. I paused. This woman is learning to thrive. Kayamika also brought news. The court date is next week. Barrister Okafor is confident the judge will enforce the original settlement and reject Michael's delays. It looks like this might actually be ending. How do you feel about that? Relieved. Terrified. Excited. All of it at once. That's healthy. Ambivalence means you're processing honestly. On day 30, my final day at Serenity Heights, Dr. Shinonso asked me what I'd learned. That I'm stronger than I thought. That healing isn't linear. That I don't have to forgive someone to move past them. And that choosing myself isn't selfish, it's survival. What will you do when you leave here? Go to court. Finalize my divorce. Rebuild my life. Maybe go back to school like I always wanted. Travel. Figure out who Ada is as a complete person, not as someone's wife. And if Michael tries to pull you back in, he won't. Because I'm not that woman anymore. I'm not someone who can be manipulated by guilt or promises or threats. I'm someone who knows her worth now. Ada, I want you to remember something. Dr. Shinonso leaned forward. Healing isn't a destination. It's a practice. You're going to have hard days. Days when the pain comes back. Days when you doubt everything you've learned here. That's normal. That's human. The difference is now you have tools. You have resources. You have a community of women who've walked similar paths. You're not alone anymore. I left Serenity Heights on a Tuesday morning with a bag full of journals, a folder of coping strategies, and a heart that felt cautiously hopeful. Kayamika picked me up. "Welcome back to the world," she said, hugging me. "It feels different. Or maybe I'm different. Definitely you. You're practically glowing." We drove back to my apartment, my space that I'd barely lived in before checking into treatment. It looked different now. Not empty and sterile, but full of possibility. "I'm going to make this place mine," I said, looking around. "New paint, new furniture, pictures on the walls. Make it actually feel like home." I love that energy. "When's the court date?" "Friday. 3 days. Are you ready?" "I am. Whatever happens, I'm ready." That evening, I called Barrister Okafor. "Ada, Kayamika said you were back. How was the program?" "Life-changing. Literally. I'm ready for Friday. What do I need to know?" "The judge has reviewed all the motions and countermotions. She's not happy with Michael's delays. She's indicated she's inclined to enforce the original settlement agreement and grant the divorce." "But Ada, I need to prepare you. Michael's lawyer has filed one final motion." My stomach tightened. "What kind of motion?" "He's claiming you abandoned the marriage. That your refusal to reconcile or attend counseling constitutes marital abandonment, and he's requesting the court deny the divorce petition." "That's insane. He had an affair. He got someone else pregnant. How is me refusing to reconcile abandonment?" "It's not. It's a desperate move by a desperate man. But we have to address it in court. Which means you'll need to testify." "Testify? About what?" "About the marriage. The affair. Your attempts at reconciliation. Michael's behavior throughout this process. The judge needs to hear from you directly." My newfound calm wavered. "I have to talk about everything in open court?" "Yes. But Ada, I've seen you fight through worse. You can do this. And more importantly, the truth is on your side. We have evidence of everything: the affair, the messages, Tonia's pregnancy, his attempts to manipulate you. All you have to do is tell the truth." After the call, I sat on my couch feeling the weight of what was coming. 3 months ago, the idea of testifying about my failed marriage in front of a judge would have destroyed me. The shame, the embarrassment, the public exposure of my pain. But now I saw it differently. This wasn't about shame. This was about truth. This was about standing up in public and saying, "This is what happened to me, and I refuse to pretend otherwise." This was about reclaiming my narrative. Wednesday, I went back to work. My supervisor had approved my return with reduced hours, just enough to maintain my income without overwhelming myself. My colleagues welcomed me back warmly. Some asked how I was doing. Others just squeezed my shoulder and said they were glad to see me. The whispers had died down. Or maybe I just didn't care about them anymore. Thursday evening, Kayamika helped me pick out an outfit for court. "Professional but not severe," she advised. "You want to look credible, not cold." We settled on a simple dress in deep green, dignified, put together, confident. "How are you feeling?" she asked as I tried it on. "Surprisingly calm. A month ago, I would have been having panic attacks. Now I'm just ready. Ready to tell my truth. Ready to end this chapter. Ready to move forward." That's the Ada I know. Strong. Fierce. Unbreakable. Not unbreakable. I broke. Completely shattered. But I put myself back together. And the woman who emerged from those pieces is someone I'm actually proud of. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, but from anticipation. Tomorrow, I would face Michael in court. I would tell a judge everything that happened. I would stand in my truth without apology. And then, finally, I would be free. I got up at 2 a.m. and wrote in my journal, "Dear past Ada, tomorrow you will walk into a courtroom and face the man who broke your heart. You will tell your story to strangers. You will expose your pain to public record. And you will survive it. Not just survive, you will thrive. Because you've learned something crucial. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by how you respond. Michael took 5 years of your life. Don't let him take one more day. Walk in there with your head high. Tell the truth. And then walk out into the future you deserve. You've got this. Love, Present Ada. Friday morning arrived with clear skies and a calm I didn't expect. I dressed carefully. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back. The green dress and simple jewelry. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman I recognized, but who was also somehow new. Stronger. Wiser. More herself than she'd been in years. Kayamika drove me to the courthouse. Barrister Okafor met us in the lobby. You ready? She asked. I am. We walked into the courtroom together. And there, sitting at the opposite table with his lawyer, was Michael. He looked terrible. Weight loss, dark circles under his eyes, a defeated slump to his shoulders. He looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met. And I felt nothing. Not love. Not hate. Not even anger. Just indifference. He was just a man who'd once been my husband. Nothing more. Nothing less. The power he'd had over me, the ability to hurt me, to manipulate my emotions, to make me doubt myself, was gone. I sat down at our table, opened my notebook, and waited for the judge. Whatever happened in the next few hours, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was going to be okay. Not because the court would rule in my favor. Not because justice would be served. But because I had chosen myself. I had done the work. I had healed. And nothing, not Michael, not his lawyers, not even a judge's ruling could take that away from me. The bailiff entered. All rise. The Honorable Justice Obioma presiding. I stood, ready to tell my truth. Ready to reclaim my life. Ready to be free. Ada's walked through fire and come out stronger on the other side. Tomorrow in court, she'll face Michael one final time. Will justice be served? Will she finally get the divorce she's fighting for? If you're invested in Ada's victory, smash that subscribe button and comment. What do you think Michael's going to try in court? Because Act 8 is where everything comes together, where truth meets consequence, where Ada's testimony changes everything, and where the real revelations begin. You won't want to miss this. Justice Obioma was a woman in her late 50s with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every lie and excuse imaginable in her 20 years on the bench. She settled into her seat, opened the case file, and surveyed both sides with the kind of piercing look that made even honest people want to confess something. This is the matter of Okonkwo versus Okonkwo, she began, reading from the file. Petition for divorce filed by Mrs. Ada Okonkwo on grounds of adultery. Multiple motions and countermotions filed by both parties. Defamation counterclaim dismissed 2 weeks ago. She looked up. I've reviewed all submissions. Counsels, we're here today to resolve the remaining disputes and determine whether this divorce will be granted. Barrister Okafor, you represent the petitioner. Yes, Your Honor. And Barrister Chukwuma, you represent the respondent? Yes, Your Honor. Good. Barrister Chukwuma, I understand your client is contesting the divorce on grounds of abandonment despite evidence of adultery. Explain that to me. Michael's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that mistakes were made during the marriage. However, he maintains that Mrs. Okonkwo refused all attempts at reconciliation, refused marriage counseling, and effectively abandoned the marriage by filing for divorce without exhausting all possible remedies. Under Nigerian matrimonial law. Counselor, Justice Obioma interrupted, I've been practicing law since before you were born. Don't lecture me on matrimonial law. What I want to know is how you expect me to blame a wife for abandoning a marriage when your client committed adultery for 6 months and impregnated another woman. The courtroom went silent. Barrister Chukwuma recovered quickly. Your Honor, the pregnancy occurred after the separation. After the discovery, you mean? Not after any legal separation. She flipped through the file. According to the timeline submitted, Mr. Okonkwo continued his relationship with the other woman even after his wife confronted him about the affair. Is that correct? Your Honor, the circumstances were complicated. Yes or no, Counselor? Yes, Your Honor. But my client was in emotional distress. We'll get to that. Barrister Okafor, call your first witness. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, the petitioner calls Mrs. Ada Okonkwo to testify. My legs felt shaky as I walked to the witness stand. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. The whole truth. Nothing but the truth. Mrs. Okonkwo, Barrister Okafor began gently, please tell the court how long you were married to the respondent. 5 years and 3 months. And during those 5 years, would you describe your marriage as happy? I thought carefully. For the first 3 years, yes. We struggled financially like most young couples, but we were partners. We supported each other. I believed we were building a future together. When did things change? About 2 years ago, Michael got promoted to senior manager at his company. His behavior started changing, coming home late, taking calls in private, becoming distant. But the real change happened about 8 months ago. What happened 8 months ago? That's when I believe the affair with Tonia began, though I didn't discover it until 6 months later. How did you discover the affair? I took a breath. I found hotel bookings on his laptop. The same hotel where we'd celebrated our anniversary. I checked his messages and found 6 months of communication with a woman named Tonia who worked at his company. The messages were explicit about their relationship. What did these messages contain? Plans to meet at hotels. Romantic messages. Complaints about me, about our marriage. And discussions about their future together. Did you confront your husband about this? Yes. I booked a room next to the one he'd reserved for himself and Tonia. When they arrived, I walked into their room and confronted them both. There was a murmur in the courtroom. Justice Obioma banged her gavel once. Order. Mrs. Okonkwo, Barrister Okafor continued, what was your husband's response when confronted? He cried. He apologized. He begged me not to leave. He said it was a mistake and that he wanted to work things out. Did you believe him? For about 3 seconds. Then I remembered that 6 months of deliberate deception isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Did your husband make any attempts at reconciliation? He called constantly. He sent messages. He involved his mother, who blamed me for not being understanding enough. He showed up at places I was staying. But none of it was genuine reconciliation. It was manipulation designed to make me doubt myself and take him back without real consequences. Your Honor, Barrister Chukwuma stood. I object. The witness is characterizing my client's sincere attempts at reconciliation as manipulation. Overruled, Justice Obioma said. She's testifying to her perception of events. You'll have your chance to cross-examine. Continue, Barrister Okafor. Mrs. Okonkwo, at any point did your husband admit that the other woman was pregnant? Yes. During mediation 3 months ago. He told me Tonia was 8 weeks pregnant. 8 weeks from the mediation date would place conception when? Approximately 1 week after I caught them at the hotel. Which means even after I confronted him, even while he was begging me to take him back, he went back to her and slept with her again. More murmurs. Justice Obioma looked at Michael with barely concealed disgust. Mrs. Okonkwo, did you refuse all marriage counseling as the respondent claims? I refused to attend counseling with a man who continued his affair even after being caught. I did, however, seek individual therapy for the trauma the situation caused me. I spent 30 days in a residential treatment program because the stress of this divorce battle led to panic attacks, severe depression, and at one point, passive suicidal thoughts. I saw Michael flinch. Good. Let him hear what his choices had cost me. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Mrs. Okonkwo's discharge summary from Serenity Heights Recovery Center as evidence of the psychological impact of the respondent's actions. Objection, Barrister Chukwuma said. Relevance. It's directly relevant to the claim that Mrs. Okonkwo abandoned the marriage without cause. The evidence shows she was fighting for her mental health and survival. Overruled. The document will be admitted. Continue. Barrister Okafor walked me through the rest, the delayed divorce proceedings, Michael's defamation suit, the break-in at my apartment, the constant harassment. Mrs. Okonkwo, in your own words, why are you seeking this divorce? I looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, I'm seeking this divorce because I deserve a life built on truth, not lies. I deserve a partner who honors his commitments. I deserve to be more than someone's backup plan. Michael had 6 months to choose our marriage. He chose someone else. I'm simply accepting his choice and moving forward. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor. Justice Obioma turned to Michael's lawyer. Your witness, Barrister Chukwuma. He approached carefully. Mrs. Okonkwo, you testified that you believed your marriage was happy for the first 3 years. Is it possible you missed signs that your husband was unhappy? It's possible. But his unhappiness didn't justify lying and cheating. If he was unhappy, he should have communicated that. We could have gone to counseling together, worked on our issues, or separated honestly. Instead, he chose deception. Isn't it true that you became less attentive to your husband's needs after he got promoted? Barrister Okafor stood. Objection. Counsel is victim-blaming. Your Honor, Barrister Chukwuma said, I'm simply trying to establish whether both parties contributed to the marriage breakdown. I'll allow it, but tread carefully, Counselor. I answered before he could rephrase. I worked full-time as a nurse, managed our household, supported my husband's career, and maintained our home. If that's not being attentive, I don't know what is. But even if I had failed as a wife in some way, that wouldn't justify a 6-month affair. Adults communicate about their needs. They don't lie and cheat. Mrs. Okonkwo, you testified that my client involved his mother in reconciliation attempts. Isn't that a sign he was serious about saving the marriage? No. That's a sign he wanted someone else to convince me to ignore his betrayal. His mother told me all men make mistakes and that it was my duty as a wife to forgive. That's not reconciliation. That's pressure. Did you make any effort to understand why your husband strayed? I spent months asking myself that question, wondering what I'd done wrong, what I could have done differently. Then I realized I was asking the wrong question. The right question isn't why he strayed. It's why he thought he had the right to lie to me for 6 months. And the answer is simple. He valued his own pleasure more than our marriage. Barrister Chukwuma was getting frustrated. Mrs. Okonkwo, my client has expressed genuine remorse. Your client expressed regret about consequences. That's different from remorse. Remorse would have meant confessing the affair before I discovered it. Remorse would have meant ending things with Tonia immediately. Remorse would have meant taking full responsibility without involving his mother or his lawyers, or trying to sue me for defamation when I told the truth. Your Honor, Barrister Chukwuma said, the witness is being argumentative. The witness is being honest, Justice Obioma said dryly. If you don't like her answers, ask better questions. He tried a different approach. Mrs. Okonkwo, isn't it true that you threatened to destroy my client's career if he didn't agree to your settlement terms? No. I informed him that I had evidence of workplace misconduct, an affair with a subordinate employee, and that such evidence could be relevant in divorce proceedings. That's not a threat. That's a fact. You told him you would submit that evidence to his employer. If the divorce went to court, it would become public record anyway. I was offering him a chance to settle privately and avoid that embarrassment. He chose to fight instead. Because your settlement demands were excessive. Were they? I asked for half of our joint savings, a car we purchased together, and my choice of furniture. I didn't ask for alimony, his pension, or any future earnings. How is asking for what I contributed to excessive? He had no good answer to that. No further questions, Your Honor. Justice Obioma looked at Michael. Mr. Okonkwo, do you wish to testify? Michael stood slowly. He looked at me, then at his lawyer, then back at the judge. Yes, Your Honor. He took the stand and was sworn in. Barrister Chukwuma walked him through his version of events. How the affair was a moment of weakness. How he deeply regretted it. How he tried everything to save the marriage, but his wife was too hurt and angry to forgive. Mr. Okonkwo, his lawyer asked, do you still love your wife? Yes, Michael said, his voice breaking. I've never stopped loving her. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. If the court grants you another chance, would you commit to marriage counseling? Absolutely. I would do anything to save our marriage. It was a good performance. I could see some people in the gallery looking sympathetic. But Justice Obioma wasn't buying it. Barrister Okafor, your witness. My lawyer approached Michael with the calm demeanor of someone who had him exactly where she wanted him. Mr. Okonkwo, you testified that you love your wife. When did you realize you loved her? I've always loved her. From the day we met. Interesting. Because according to messages between you and Ms. Tonia that we've submitted as evidence, you told her 6 months ago that you weren't sure you loved your wife anymore, that you felt trapped in your marriage, that you were only staying out of obligation. Were you lying to Ms. Tonia, or are you lying now? Michael's face went pale. I was confused. I said things I didn't mean. You said them repeatedly over 6 months. That's a long time to be confused. She pulled out printed messages. Here's one from 4 months ago. Ada, and I haven't been happy in years. I'm only staying until I figure out an exit strategy. Does that sound like someone who never stopped loving his wife? I was in a dark place. Dark enough to plan an exit strategy. Dark enough to discuss leaving your wife. But apparently not dark enough to actually communicate with her about your unhappiness. I didn't want to hurt her. So instead, you had an affair for 6 months. How thoughtful. Barrister Okafor's sarcasm was cutting. Mr. Okonkwo, you testified that you tried everything to save your marriage. Did that include being honest with Ms. Tonia about being married? Silence. Mr. Okonkwo, please answer the question. Did you tell Ms. Tonia you were married? No. What did you tell her? That I was divorced. So you lied to her about your marital status, while lying to your wife about your relationship with Ms. Tonia. You lied to everyone. Would you say that's an accurate characterization? I made mistakes. These weren't mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. You deliberately lied to 2 women for 6 months. You deliberately booked hotels. You deliberately maintained 2 separate lives. Those are conscious choices, not mistakes. Michael couldn't respond. Mr. Okonkwo, when did you learn Ms. Tonia was pregnant? About 3 months ago. And what was your response? I didn't know what to do. That's not what I asked. What was your response? Michael looked at his lawyer helplessly. Mr. Okonkwo, Justice Obioma said sharply, answer the question. I asked her to get an abortion, he said quietly. Speak up, please. I asked her to get an abortion. His voice echoed in the courtroom. I couldn't afford to support a child, and I was trying to save my marriage. I made a terrible decision in a moment of panic. You asked a woman to terminate your child because it was inconvenient for you, Barrister Okafor said. The same way you want this court to find that your wife is being inconvenient for not forgiving you. You want everyone to make your problems disappear without you facing real consequences. Objection. Barrister Chukwuma was on his feet. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Barrister Okafor, ask questions, don't make speeches. My apologies, Your Honor. Mr. Okonkwo, you testified that you would do anything to save your marriage. Did that include telling your wife about the pregnancy? I did tell her. During mediation. Only after she'd already filed for divorce. Only when you had no other choice. That's not transparency. That's damage control. She walked back to our table and picked up another document. Mr. Okonkwo, are you familiar with a woman named Patricia Okoro? Michael's face went white. Who? Patricia Okoro. She worked at St. Mary's Hospital until 3 years ago. She submitted a sworn affidavit stating that she saw you at the hospital with another woman approximately 2 years ago. A woman who was not your wife and you were behaving intimately with. You asked Ms. Okoro not to mention your visit to your wife. The courtroom erupted. Justice Obioma banged her gavel. Order. Order in this court. I stared at Michael, my heart pounding. 2 years ago. Another woman. Before Tonia. Mr. Okonkwo, Barrister Okafor pressed, was Ms. Tonia your first affair? Your Honor, I don't see how this is relevant. It's relevant because you're claiming this was a momentary lapse in judgment. One mistake. But evidence suggests a pattern of behavior. Answer the question, Mr. Okonkwo. Was Ms. Tonia your first affair? Michael's lawyer was objecting, but the judge waved him off. Answer the question, Mr. Okonkwo. Michael looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke it. No. The single word shattered whatever small part of me had still been hoping this was all a nightmare. How many affairs have you had during your marriage to Mrs. Okonkwo? I don't know. A few. They didn't mean anything. A few. And you're asking this court to grant you another chance based on your promise to be faithful? Based on what? Your excellent track record. Michael was crying now. I have a problem. I know I have a problem. I need help. I'm willing to get help. You had 5 years to get help, Mr. Okonkwo. You chose to lie instead. Barrister Okafor turned to the judge. Your Honor, the respondent has admitted to multiple affairs during his marriage. He has demonstrated a pattern of deception, manipulation, and refusal to accept responsibility for his actions. He has put my client through psychological trauma severe enough to require residential treatment. He has attempted to use the legal system to further harass and intimidate her. This is not a marriage that can or should be saved. This is a marriage that needs to end so my client can heal and rebuild her life. She sat down. Justice Obioma was silent for a long moment, reviewing her notes. Then she spoke. I've heard enough. Mr. Okonkwo, step down. Michael returned to his seat, head down, defeated. In my 20 years on this bench, Justice Obioma began, I've presided over hundreds of divorce cases. Many involve adultery. Many involve deception. But rarely have I seen such a clear-cut case of systematic betrayal and manipulation. She looked directly at Michael. Mr. Okonkwo, you stood before this court and proclaimed your love for your wife. But love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. Love is action. And every single action you've taken for the past 2 years, possibly longer, has demonstrated that you do not love your wife. You love the idea of your wife. You love the convenience of having someone at home while you pursue other women. You love the respectability of marriage without the responsibility of fidelity. Michael was crying openly now. You lied to your wife. You lied to your mistresses. You lied to your family. And you attempted to lie to this court by painting yourself as a repentant husband when in fact you have a documented pattern of infidelity spanning years. She turned to me. Mrs. Okonkwo, you have shown remarkable strength and dignity throughout these proceedings. You have sought appropriate help for your mental health. You have told the truth consistently. And you have asked for nothing more than what you are legally entitled to. She picked up her pen. This court finds that the marriage between Ada Okonkwo and Michael Okonkwo has irretrievably broken down due to the respondent's adultery and systematic deception. The petition for divorce is hereby granted. Relief washed over me like a wave. Furthermore, this court orders the respondent to comply with the original settlement agreement in its entirety, full division of joint savings, transfer of the vehicle to the petitioner, petitioner's choice of furniture up to 60%, and all legal fees associated with these proceedings. Barrister Chukwuma started to object, but Justice Obioma silenced him with a look. The respondent had multiple opportunities to settle this matter fairly and privately. He chose instead to drag out the proceedings, file frivolous countersuits, and waste this court's time. He will now face the consequences of those choices. She signed the decree. This divorce is granted effective immediately. Mrs. Okonkwo, you are legally free from this marriage. Mr. Okonkwo, you have 30 days to comply with the settlement terms or face contempt charges. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. I sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Ada, Barrister Okafor said gently, it's over. You're free. Free. The word didn't feel real yet. Kayamika was there immediately, pulling me into a hug. You did it. Oh my God, Ada, you did it. I looked across the courtroom. Michael was slumped in his chair, his lawyer speaking to him urgently. He looked up, caught my eye one last time. I didn't look away. I didn't gloat. I just looked at him with the calm certainty of someone who had survived and moved on. Then I stood, gathered my things, and walked out of that courtroom. Out into the Abuja afternoon. Out into my new life. Barrister Okafor walked us to the courthouse steps. The decree will be filed today. You'll receive official copies within a week. As for the settlement, I'll follow up with his lawyer tomorrow to ensure compliance. If he tries to delay or avoid payment, we file for contempt immediately. Thank you, I said. For everything. For fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You fought plenty, Ada. You just fought smart. That's why you won. Kayamika drove me home, to my apartment, my space, my life. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it. Lighter. Like I've been carrying something impossibly heavy, and I finally got to set it down. What are you going to do now? Right now? Order pizza, drink wine, and sleep for 12 hours. Tomorrow? Start building the life I want instead of the life I settled for. That night, alone in my apartment with divorce papers on my coffee table and freedom in my hands, I cried. But not from sadness. From relief. From gratitude. From the overwhelming realization that I had walked through hell and come out the other side. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "Dear future Ada, today you became legally free from a man who never deserved you. Today a judge looked at all the evidence and validated everything you'd been feeling, that you were wronged, that you deserved better, that his choices were his alone. But the real freedom didn't come from the judge's ruling. It came from you choosing yourself. From you refusing to accept less than you deserved. From you doing the hard work of healing even when it seemed impossible. You survived, Ada. You not only survived, you transformed. And now the real work begins. Building a life so full of joy and purpose and love that the years you spent with Michael become just a chapter in your story, not the whole book. You've got this. You've always had this. Love, present Ada." I closed the journal and looked around my apartment. It was still mostly bare, still waiting to be made into a home. But that's exactly what I was going to do. Make it a home. Make a life. Make myself whole again. Not because a man loved me or validated me or chose me, but because I loved myself enough to choose myself. And that was more than enough. Justice has been served. Ada walked into that courtroom and told her truth, and the judge saw through Michael's lies completely. The divorce is granted. Ada is free. But is this really the end of the story? Subscribe and comment below. What do you think happens next? Because Act 9 is going to show you Ada's new beginning, and trust me, there's one more twist coming that will make you believe in karma all over again. 6 months later. I woke up in my apartment to sunlight streaming through new curtains I'd picked out myself, bright yellow, cheerful, nothing like the heavy drapes Michael had preferred in our old house. My apartment had transformed. No longer the sterile, empty space I'd moved into during my darkest days. Now it was alive with color, plants on the windowsill, artwork on the walls, photographs of me with Kayamika, my mother, my brothers. Pictures of me alone, smiling, looking genuinely happy. A home. My home. I made coffee and sat on my balcony, the same balcony where I'd once had dark thoughts. But that woman felt like a stranger now. I could barely remember what it felt like to be that broken. My phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Amara, my therapist. "Don't forget, session at 2 p.m. today. Looking forward to hearing about your enrollment." I smiled. Today was the day I was officially enrolling in the nursing master's program at the University of Abuja. Pediatric specialization, the dream I'd put on hold when I got married because we needed to save money for our future. Now it was just my future. And I was investing in it fully. The divorce settlement had been finalized 2 months after the court ruling. Michael had tried to delay one more time, but Barrister Okafor had filed contempt charges so fast his head spun. Within a week, the full settlement amount had been transferred to my account. 1.5 million naira, my half of our savings. The Honda Civic, now in my name. And every piece of furniture I'd chosen, including the dining table where we'd eaten our first meal as a married couple. I'd almost left it, but then decided no, I'd contributed to buying it. It was mine. Michael had moved back in with his mother. According to mutual acquaintances, he'd been demoted at work after an internal investigation into his relationship with Tonia confirmed workplace misconduct. Not fired, they'd been lenient, but demoted with a formal warning in his file. Tonia had resigned. She'd had the baby, a girl, 3 months ago. Michael's daughter. I knew this because Tonia had reached out to me one more time. It had been 2 months after the divorce was finalized. A message, "Mrs. Okonkwo," or I guess it's Ms. Okonkwo now. I had my baby. A girl. I named her Grace. I thought you should know that Michael hasn't visited once. Hasn't sent money. Hasn't acknowledged her existence beyond the required DNA test. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I made my choices. But I wanted you to know the kind of man we both wasted time on. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found peace. Tonia. I'd stared at that message for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. See? He's exactly who I said he was. But a bigger part just felt sad. Sad for that baby girl who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Sad for Tonia, who is now a single mother to a man's child while he pretended she didn't exist. I'd responded simply, I'm sorry you're going through this. If you need resources for single mothers or legal advice about child support, let me know. No woman deserves to raise a child alone when the father is alive and able to contribute. Antonia, you're stronger than you know. You'll get through this. Ada. She'd never responded, but I hoped the message had helped somehow. I'd thought about that baby a lot. Grace. Michael's daughter. The child I might have had with him if things had gone differently. Instead, I dodged a bullet. Because if Michael was this much of a disaster with an affair baby he didn't want, imagine what kind of father he would have been to children in our marriage when things got hard. I finished my coffee and got ready for the day. I had a shift at the hospital. I was back to full-time now, thriving actually. I'd been nominated for a Patient Care Excellence Award last month. The ceremony was next week. At work, my phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Ada? This is Mrs. Okonkwo, Michael's mother. I froze. We hadn't spoken since that disastrous meeting at her house before the divorce. What do you want? I need to talk to you. Can we meet? I don't think that's a good idea. Please. It's important. Just coffee. 30 minutes of your time. Every instinct screamed no. But curiosity won. Fine. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. The coffee shop in Jobby Lake Mall. 30 minutes, then I'm leaving. Thank you, Ada. I told Kayamika about it that night. Why would you agree to meet her? She was horrible to you. I know. But I'm curious. What could she possibly have to say now that the divorce is finalized? Be careful. She might try to manipulate you on Michael's behalf. She can try. Doesn't mean I'll listen. The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes late, a small power move, but it made me feel in control. Mrs. Okonkwo was already there, looking older than I remembered. Tired. Worn down. I sat across from her without greeting. You wanted to talk. Talk. She took a breath. I owe you an apology. That was not what I expected. When you came to my house before the divorce, I blamed you. I told you that you weren't meeting Michael's needs, that you were being too harsh, that all men make mistakes. I was wrong about all of it. I stayed silent, waiting. I've watched my son these past 6 months. Watched him spiral. Watched him refuse to take responsibility for anything. Watched him abandon his own child. And I realized something. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I raised him to be this way. What do you mean? I spoiled him. Made excuses for him. Protected him from consequences his whole life. When he misbehaved as a child, I blamed other kids. When he did poorly in school, I blamed teachers. When his father tried to discipline him, I intervened. I taught him that he could do whatever he wanted and someone would always clean up his mess. She wiped her eyes. And then he married you. A good woman. A strong woman. Someone who would have made him better if he'd let her. But instead, he treated you the way I taught him to treat people, like your job was to serve him, support him, and never hold him accountable. I didn't know what to say. When you divorced him, I was angry. I thought you were destroying my son's life. But you weren't destroying it. You were refusing to continue enabling him. And I should have supported you. I should have told him that he was wrong, that he needed to face consequences, that he needed to change. Instead, I tried to convince you to take him back. I'm sorry, Ada. I'm so sorry. Tears were streaming down her face now. He has a daughter he won't even meet. His own child. And when I confronted him about it, he said she was a mistake. He called his own baby a mistake. That's when I knew I'd completely failed as a mother. Mrs. Okonkwo, please let me finish. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me or for Michael. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that you were right. About everything. And I want you to know that I see that now. You were the best thing that ever happened to my son, and he destroyed it through his own selfishness and my enabling. I'm sorry I didn't stand by you when I should have. We sat in silence for a moment. I appreciate you saying this, I said finally. I really do. But Mrs. Okonkwo, I can't fix Michael. I can't fix your relationship with him. That's something you both have to work out yourselves. I know. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just wanted you to know that I was wrong. And that I hope you found happiness. I'm getting there. Day by day. She smiled sadly. You look good, Ada. Healthy. Free. Like a weight has been lifted. It has. Several weights, actually. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I pray you find a man who deserves you. Who cherishes you. Who treats you the way my son should have. Thank you. But right now I'm focusing on myself. Loving myself. Building the life I want. If a good man comes along eventually, wonderful. But if not, I'm complete on my own. That's wise. Wiser than I was at your age. We talked for a few more minutes, nothing heavy. Just small talk about her grandchildren from Michael's sister, about my plans for school, about life moving forward. When we parted, she hugged me. Thank you for meeting with me, Ada. And thank you for showing my son who you really are. Even if he was too foolish to appreciate it. I drove away from that meeting feeling strange. Not happy exactly. But at peace. Mrs. Okonkwo's apology didn't change what Michael had done. It didn't erase the pain. But it did validate something important. I hadn't been crazy or unreasonable or too harsh. I'd been right. And sometimes, that validation matters. 2 weeks later, I enrolled in the master's program. The orientation was full of eager students, most younger than me. But I didn't care. I was there for me, not to compete with anyone. During the break, a man approached me. Tall, professional-looking, with kind eyes and an easy smile. You're in the pediatric specialization track, right? I saw you in the intro session. I'm Dr. Chidi Nwosu. I'll be one of your instructors for the clinical rotation module. Ada Okonkwo. Nice to meet you. We talked about the program, about pediatric nursing, about his work at the National Hospital. He was passionate about his field, articulate, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. When the break ended, he said, I look forward to having you in my class, Ada. Something tells me you're going to be an excellent addition to the program. Kayamika was waiting when I got home, demanding details about my first day. And then this doctor, Dr. Nwosu, talked to me during break. He's going to be one of my instructors. Was he cute? Chi, I just got divorced 6 months ago. I'm not thinking about men. I didn't ask if you wanted to marry him. I asked if he was cute. I laughed. Yes, fine. He was cute. And smart. And nice. Happy? Very. Just remember, not all men are Michael. When you're ready, there are good ones out there. I know. But right now, I'm focused on becoming the woman I want to be. The relationship stuff can wait. But over the next few weeks, Dr. Nwosu kept appearing in my life. Not in a creepy way, just coincidentally. At the library where I was studying. At the coffee shop near campus. In the hallways between classes. And each time we'd talk. About medicine, about life, about books and music and everything except my past. He didn't know I was divorced. Didn't know about Michael or Tonia or the hotel confrontation. To him, I was just Ada, a nursing student passionate about pediatric care. And I liked being just Ada. Not Michael's ex-wife. Not the woman who'd been betrayed. Just myself. 3 months into the program, Dr. Nwosu asked me to coffee. Just coffee, he said quickly. I know there are rules about instructors and students, but the semester is almost over, and I'd love to actually talk to you outside of academic settings. No pressure. I surprised myself by saying yes. We met at a quiet cafe in Was. For 2 hours, we talked about everything and nothing. Our families, our dreams, our fears, our hopes. Can I ask you something personal? He said finally. Depends on the question. You don't wear a wedding ring, but you have a mark where one used to be. What's the story there? I looked down at my left hand. He was right, there was still a slight indentation where my wedding band had been for 5 years. I could have deflected. Could have said it was complicated. Could have changed the subject. Instead, I told him the truth. Not all the details, but the basics. Married young. Husband had affairs. Got divorced. Working on rebuilding. He listened without judgment. I'm sorry you went through that, he said when I finished. But I'm also impressed. It takes strength to leave a bad situation. A lot of people stay because it's easier than starting over. Starting over wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was necessary. How long ago was the divorce finalized? 9 months. And are you open to dating? Or is it too soon? My heart skipped. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. That's fair. But Ada, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm interested in getting to know you better, in seeing where this could go. But only if you're ready. If you're not, that's completely okay. We can just be friends. I just wanted you to know where I stand. I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't Michael. Didn't have Michael's smooth charm or polished exterior. But he had something better: authenticity, kindness, a quiet strength that didn't need to prove itself. I'm not ready for anything serious, I said honestly. But I'm open to getting to know you better. As long as you understand I'm still healing, still figuring out who I am outside of my marriage. I can work with that, he smiled. No pressure. No expectations. Just two people spending time together and seeing what happens. Okay then. Okay. Over the next few months, we did exactly that. Coffee dates. Study sessions at the library. Walks around Jobby Lake. Movies. Dinners. He was patient. Never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Never pressured me to define what we were or where we were going. And slowly, carefully, I started to trust again. Not completely. Not blindly. But cautiously, with boundaries and open communication, and a determination to never lose myself again. Dr. Amara was proud of me. You're doing exactly what you should be doing, she said during one of our sessions. Taking your time. Being honest about your readiness. Not rushing into anything to fill a void. That's healthy, Ada. I'm scared, I admit it. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of trusting the wrong person. Scared of missing red flags. That's normal after what you went through. But Ada, fear can't control your life. You can acknowledge it, respect it, and still move forward anyway. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Ada, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. You've probably moved on with your life and don't think about me at all anymore. But I needed to say this, even if you delete it without reading. I'm sorry. For everything. For the affairs. For the lies. For the pain I caused you. For wasting 5 years of your life. For being too much of a coward to appreciate what I had until it was gone. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy, not just counseling to try to get you back. I'm working on my issues, my selfishness, my fear of commitment, my pattern of self-sabotage. My therapist says I have intimacy issues stemming from childhood trauma. I don't know if that's an excuse or an explanation, but I'm trying to understand myself so I don't hurt anyone else the way I hurt you. I met my daughter for the first time last week. Her name is Grace. She's beautiful. She looks like me. And holding her, I realized what a massive failure I've been. Not just as a husband, but as a human being. Tonia won't speak to me except through lawyers about child support. My mother barely talks to me. My siblings are disappointed in me. I lost my marriage, my reputation, my self-respect, all of it. And it's all my fault. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because I want you to know that your decision to leave me was the right one. You deserved better than me. You always did. I hope you're happy, Ada. I hope you found someone who treats you the way I should have. I hope you're living the life you always wanted. You deserve all of that and more. I'm sorry. For everything. Michael. I read it 3 times. Then I closed the email, moved it to trash, and emptied my deleted folder. Not because I was angry. Not because I hadn't forgiven him. But because his apology, while probably genuine, wasn't something I needed anymore. I'd already moved on. That evening, Chitty, I'd started calling Dr. Nwosu by his first name, took me to dinner at a nice restaurant in Central area. I have something to tell you, he said over dessert. That sounds ominous. It's not bad. At least, I hope you don't think it's bad. I've been offered a position in the UK. A research fellowship at a children's hospital in London. It's a 2-year program. My stomach dropped. That's amazing. Congratulations. Thank you. But Ada, I'm not going. What? Why not? That sounds like an incredible opportunity. It is. But there's someone here that's more important to me. He reached across the table and took my hand. Ada, I know we've been taking things slow. I know you're still healing from your past. I know you're not ready for big declarations or commitments. But I need you to know something. I'm in love with you. Completely. Totally. And I don't want to spend 2 years in London wondering what could have happened if I'd stayed. My eyes filled with tears. Chitty, you can't turn down that opportunity for me. We've only been dating for a few months. 8 months. And I'm not turning it down for you. I'm turning it down for us. For the possibility of us. But Ada, I need to know, is there an US? Is there a possibility that this could become something real? Because if there's not, tell me now and I'll take the fellowship. But if there is, even just a chance, I want to stay and see where it goes. I thought about Michael's email. His apologies and regrets and admission that he'd wasted my time. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, broken, lost, barely surviving. And I thought about the woman I was now, whole, healed, building a life I loved. Chitty, I can't promise you forever. I can't promise I won't be scared sometimes or that I won't need space when things get hard. But I can promise you this, I care about you. More than I thought I could care about anyone after everything I went through. And I want to see where this goes. I want to try. He smiled, the kind of smile that lights up a whole room. That's more than enough for me. He leaned across the table and kissed me. Gentle, sweet, full of promise. And for the first time in over a year, I felt something I'd thought was lost forever. Hope. Not just hope that this relationship would work out, but hope for my future. Hope that I could love again without losing myself. Hope that the best parts of my life were still ahead of me. 2 weeks later, I graduated from my master's program with honors. My mother, my brothers, Kayamika, and Chitty all came to the ceremony. As I walked across that stage to receive my degree, I thought about the woman who'd checked into Serenity Heights a year ago, broken and barely holding on. She would be so proud of who I'd become. After the ceremony, we celebrated at my apartment, my home that I'd built from nothing. A toast, Kayamika announced, raising her glass. To Ada Okonkwo, the strongest woman I know, who walked through fire and came out refined, not destroyed. To new beginnings, to hard-won wisdom, to self-love, and to the future. To Ada, everyone chorused. I looked around at the people who'd stood by me through everything. My family, my best friend, and Chitty, who'd shown me that not all men were Michael. That some men actually meant what they said. That love could be healthy and respectful and real. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. All of you. For not letting me give up. For carrying me when I couldn't walk. For reminding me who I was when I forgot. I wouldn't be here without you. Later that night, after everyone had left, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and my journal. I turned to a blank page and wrote, Dear Past Ada, remember when you stood in that hotel room with an envelope in your hand and your heart in pieces? Remember when you thought your life was over because your marriage was ending? You were wrong. Your life wasn't ending. It was beginning. Everything you've been through, the betrayal, the pain, the legal battles, the breakdown, the slow climb back to wholeness, all of it was necessary. All of it taught you something crucial about who you are and what you deserve. You learned that you're stronger than you knew. That you can survive things you thought would destroy you. That choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. You learned that you don't need someone else to complete you. That you're whole on your own. That relationships should add to your life, not define it. You learned that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. That you can release anger without condoning what was done to you. That peace is more valuable than revenge. And most importantly, you learned that endings aren't failures. Sometimes they're necessary to make room for better beginnings. So thank you, Past Ada, for being brave enough to walk away. For choosing the unknown over the unbearable. For refusing to settle for less than you deserved. And thank you, Present Ada, for doing the work. For healing. For growing. For becoming someone Past Ada would be proud of. As for future Ada, she's going to be extraordinary. Because she's built on a foundation of truth, self-love, and hard-won wisdom. The best is yet to come. With love and gratitude. Ada. I closed the journal and looked out at the Abuja skyline, lit up against the night sky. Somewhere out there, Michael was living with the consequences of his choices. Tonia was raising their daughter alone. Mrs. Okonkwo was grappling with her role in creating the man her son had become. But their stories were no longer my concern. My story was my own now. And it was just beginning. My phone buzzed. A text from Chitty. Thank you for tonight. For letting me be part of your celebration. For giving us a chance. I know I say this a lot, but you're incredible, Ada. Sleep well. See. I smiled and typed back, thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me. For being patient. For being real. Sweet dreams. I finished my wine, took one last look at the city, and went inside. Tomorrow, I started my new job as a pediatric nurse specialist at the National Hospital. Next month, Chitty and I were taking a trip to Calabar, my first real vacation in years. Next year, I was planning to start a support group for women going through divorce. The future was wide open. Full of possibility. Full of promise. And this time, I wasn't building it for someone else. I was building it for me. Ada's journey from devastation to triumph is complete. She walked through the fire and came out stronger, wiser, and ready for a future she's building on her own terms. But before you go, I need to ask you something. Did this story move you? Did it make you think about your own life, your own relationships, your own worth? If you're watching this from your bed, your car, your office, wherever you are, I want you to know something. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by how you rise from it. Ada's story is fictional, but the truth it tells is real. You deserve better than betrayal. You deserve better than manipulation. You deserve better than someone who treats you like an option. And if you're in a situation like Ada was, trapped in a relationship that's destroying you, wondering if you have the strength to leave, let this story be your sign. You do. You have the strength. You're stronger than you know. Hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most important lesson you're taking from Ada's journey? Because here's the thing, Ada's story doesn't end here. There are more stories, more journeys, more triumphs waiting to be told. And I'll be here to tell them. Until next time, remember, the end of something painful is just the beginning of something beautiful. Choose yourself. Always choose yourself. You deserve it.